Yes. But anyway, hello, I'm Perseus. This is Mr. Griff. And today we're reacting to every single Warhammer 40k, WH40k, faction re-explain. And
Thank
what's
you,
it called?
Perseus.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? Everyone give it up to the Griff server skull behind me. Again, I used Krita to draw him. That little thing. I don't know if it's like Griff, I guess.
Bro, they're not gonna sponsor you.
It's okay, whatever. But yeah, let's get a show on the road. As I said before, I forget. I say a show on the road. I'm going to proceed to yap. Okay. Quick thing. I completed the starter set. It was really fun to paint and everything like that. The building was awesome. Now I'm going to be building the next one, which are going to be salamanders, and I can't wait. Then hopefully by next Friday, I'll get a dreadnought or a vehicle. You know. I really enjoy this hobby. It's been nothing but helping me with my anxiety and stress. It's just really calm and relaxing for me. And I really enjoy it for that. So thank you, Warhammer. You helped me. On to the video.
In the kind brightness of the fall.
Would you like some captions, Mr. Griff?
Bro's trying to slip some captions on me.
Okay, here's some. Ooh.
Our past, there was no war. Our galaxy was, for a long time, fairly empty and quiet. The first known species to appear during this time are known only as the Old Ones, cosmic entities that traveled across the galaxy with ease and seeded life through the stars. Shortly thereafter, a new species began to arise. The Necron tier. Evolving under the harshness of a devastatingly powerful star, the short-lived and irradiated Necron tier try to find the secret to eternal life and to be freed from their terrible existence. As they expand through the stars, they find the Old Ones and they plead to them to share the secrets of the universe and grant them purchase from their short and painful existence.
Oh boy, I don't remember this.
What do you mean you don't remember this?
No, I said I remember this. I didn't say if I said I don't remember this and I did by accident, I apologize. I guess it's just my brain. By the way, shout out to Modelo, which is I'm currently drinking. Modelo Especial.
The Old
They're not
Ones
gonna sponsor you,
respond
little bro.
a lull and a lamau, and with their
Lamau.
immense power, they force them back to their homeworld. The Necron tier, filled with rage and hatred, make it their duty to get revenge on the Old Ones. A revenge that would come swiftly as a chance encounter with other gods gave them a solution. These other gods were known as the Catan, a race of highly powerful star-consuming entities. Do not fear, young mortals, for we, the Catan, will provide you with the immortality you seek. Come now, won't you shake a poor sinner's hand?
Yeah, I actually would. Griff, what about you? Will you shake poor sinner's hand?
Well, after you, no, because I don't know. Now I don't know what that hand's covered in.
It's simple, really. It's covered in goon. My bat goon.
No,
Okay, let's continue.
I was gonna, I was
Yeah.
gonna talk about like Warhammer paints or something. The bit was gonna be that you didn't wash up after painting your minis.
Dude, I have to wash. Do you really think I want to be like painting? Then I have to go out there and give horse like a baby horse some medicine, and it gets pain in its mouth, like it just turns into nothing, just disappears. Why
No,
would I
it's gonna
do
turn
that?
into a Tyranid.
That's crazy. How dare you? You know what? A Tyranid horse might not be so bad. You know, that'd be kind of cool. Ride a Tyranid horse into battle.
We got him. He's a gene stealer.
No, no, please. Pick a view. It's not heresy.
Quoted from Mephitron, the Deceiver. The Necron tier accepted the
the Deceiver
offer of immortality, but
I read about him
believe it or not, this turned out to be a ruse
Ah,
A
the ancient
trick, the
text.
Catan crafted gigantic furnaces and began the process of biotransference. The Necron tier willingly walked line by line into the furnace engines made by gods who devour stars and had their souls consumed instead. The short-lived, irradiated, and cancer-inflicted race of the Necron tier ceased to be, and the immortal, soulless Necrons remained. Now backed by the immense power of the Catan, the Necrons rally against the Old Ones, and the bitter conflict in the stars at this time is known as the War in Heaven. Despite creating various races and entities to aid them in this battle, the Old Ones are overwhelmed and eradicated down to the last, due to the sheer power of the Catan off the souls of the Necron tier, and with an army of unthinkable robotic slaves at their behest. However, the Catan are
Wow.
greedy, spiteful gods, and when there was no foe worth killing, they turn
Just like
on
you,
each
Chris,
other.
yes.
The Necrons then put their
Wow.
sights towards the Catan and lay waste to them, securing their freedom.
How do you think
The
I became
once
a servitor?
subservient Necrons
It was him.
Nah, man. You do some criminal stuff. You're a criminal, Griff. You were caught being too sexy.
now control their former masters. Worn out and weakened by these wars, the Necrons, under their leader Zarek the Silent King, lie dormant, with a plan to eventually wake and reclaim control over the galaxy. Over millions of years, empires rise and
Good
they
luck with
fall. The
that.
species created by the Old Ones have footholds over the galaxy, but on a pale blue dot, in the thick of all this conflict, humanity begins to evolve. And for the most part, the basic path of humanity's evolution remains the same as it is now for almost 15,000 years. Right now, in the 21st century, this is canon. You, right now, Twitch streamer reacting to this video, you existed at a point in the Warhammer universe.
So the Emperor really just let the Choco Taco go out of production?
What?
That's why humanity split, man.
What's
Bro could have stopped it.
What's a Choco Taco, by the way?
It was a very it's a divisive like dessert treat you'd get at convenience stores. That is ice cream in a waffle cone shaped like a taco.
Damn, $850?
Yeah, man. The final war of humanity before we split across the entire galaxy. It's gonna be over the last Choco Taco. Big E could have stopped it.
Wait, what? What did you say? What?
The Big E.
Oh.
Don't make me laugh.
I kind of wish I understood the hype behind this, but as a Hispanic bat, this is just every day, man.
Just the guy who literally didn't know what I was talking about. Nice.
You're right. I was just trying to pull your leg. But honestly, it does kind of look appetizing, not gonna lie. It's appeasing to the eyes.
I've never had it once where the entire waffle cone wasn't like soggy cardboard.
Oh, I am so sorry. I'm pretty sure we can make some at the house one day. You and me can make some, then John Klondike. Klondike. I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
Just busts in
And
and
that's
just shoots
how
us.
the Horus Heresy happens. He invites me over for Choco Tacos and he stabs me right in my right in my eye.
Ah, my eye!
Well, that's why I got that one fucked up eye. You did this.
I have fucked up eye too, jackass.
Well, you know, that has nothing to do with me. I don't know why you having a fucked up eye means I have to have one. Damn.
Sorry, Bricky.
But with time, humanity's ambition and the
No,
power
bro,
of
he's
their
not gonna let you
technology becomes unmatched, and the golden age of expansion begins. Humanity starts to branch out through the stars with
Whoa.
powerful tools used for agriculture.
Did he just lag for you too? My audio is just going all over
Mining
the
and
place.
expansion. Some branches of humanity would eventually settle far away from Earth itself.
That was
And
the
around this
Catan.
time, the
Catan did that.
psychic ability of humans are greatly expanded, and what we begin to know as psychers appear. But despite all the progress, things would begin to collapse. The machines created to aid humanity would turn on them in M23, an event known as the Cybernetic Revolt, and trade would begin to collapse due to the immaterial warp, aka actual hell, beginning to cause ruptures in space and time. These warp stones would separate humanity, and this would be what is known as the Age of Strife. The warp, a sea of souls, storing all thought, emotion, and the souls of those who have passed on, begin fluctuating into something terrible, as far on the horizon, something horrendous was brewing. You see, the warp isn't just a random assortment of chaotic energy. It is fairly well organized, thanks to those
Maybe I'm
living
lagging
in the
here.
galaxy. The
Maybe
warp
something's going on in my
itself
brain.
acts as an afterlife of sorts, and the actions of the innumerable amount of
Maybe it's
creatures who live
more
in the
than just the
galaxy
eye that
have
fuck up.
manifested a pantheon of organized entities known as the forces of chaos. At their helm are three major entities: Korn, Nurgle, and Zeech. However, a fourth one,
Whoa.
Slaanesh, was about to be born. The ancient
Feature
Eldar
micro
were one of the first species created by the
Yeah, damn. Look at the background of those cheeks. Whoa.
I was gonna talk more about why they got the Candyland fucking color palette.
I think these are the Harley Quinns.
Yeah, keep telling yourself that, buddy.
Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But yeah, them cheeks are really there, you
old
know.
ones, and due to their extreme and unbridled excess, the birthing of Slaanesh
Okay, be honest with me. Do you think I could rock that outfit on the left, or the guy holding that gun and sword? You think I could rock that?
I don't think they make that in bat size, but maybe.
Oh, okay. Continue with the video.
or a hole in the galaxy,
You don't
and
have
forever
Perseus.
split
You
the
don't have the
Eldar into
Gyat for
those
that.
of the craft world,
That's a
who
level
sought to
9
bring
Gyat
each
at the
species
very
back together, and those of the Drukhari, who wish to continue what caused the birth of Slaanesh in the first place.
Drukhari,
The birthing
I
of this
remember.
fourth chaos god settled the warp storms of the Immaterium and ended the Age of Strife, but humanity was still fractured. So one man revealed himself and spearheaded an immense attempt to reunite all the fractured pieces of humanity. That
The
man was
Emperor!
the Emperor of Mankind. After reclaiming the nearly destroyed Earth, the Emperor embarked on the
I like his
Unification Wars to unite humanity under the banner of the Imperium of Man. However, due to the very long and devastating impact of the Age of Strife, humanity as we know it is not the same. To reconquer Earth, the Emperor would need more than mere men. Great beings, known as the Thunder Warriors, were recruited by the Emperor to reclaim the Earth with ease. But these warriors are a blunt tool and had, overstayed their welcome. He would need something better, and that solution would be known as the Space Marines. Superhuman soldiers that will have the skill and cunning exponentially greater than the mortal man.
the brain
These
rot.
warriors
No.
were trained by an elite group of his very own sons known as the Primarchs. Unfortunately, though, Daddy didn't
Everywhere
charge
you
the
look,
baby
you see
monitor,
him.
and his 18 sons would be stolen by the forces of chaos and scattered across the galaxy. This would begin the Great Crusade, a monumental task to take back the stars in the name of humanity and reclaim the lost Primarch sons. However, he would need the fires of industry to make this happen. Looking to the distant cousins of Mars, the Emperor signed a treaty with the technologically irradiated hellscape of the Red Planet and allowed the cult of the machine god, the Mechanicum, to supply his crusade. While Space Marines were the tip of the spear, their numbers paled to the vast
Species, we
might
get it.
of the Imperial Army and Navy. The Astra Militarum and their seemingly endless numbers make up the bulk of the fighting force for humanity, supplied by the intelligence and prowess of various agents of the Imperium, such as rogue traders and assassins. Due to the lack of connectivity
already this
between
is
the
way better
worlds, what
structured
the
than his
society had
previous
become over
attempt doing
thousands of
this.
years became mysterious and varied. Tools once used for harvesting and agriculture now are being used as machines of war in the form of imperial knights. Some of these fractures of humanity would even be changed further and become unrecognizable to the average human, with differences in size, skin color, appendages, cat ears sometimes. Some would go so far to become their own galactic societies, like the miners of the Galactic Core and their immense supercomputers,
They could be like
forming
you,
the Leagues of
Perseus.
Votan.
No.
After an incredible amount of effort and books, the
Ooh.
lost sons of the Emperor would be
Books
reunited, and the
mentioned your
Imperium of
favorite
Man
Perseus.
would be firmly
Yes, I
established.
need more books.
This, however, would not last.
Book
Be it
nerd.
intentional or accidental, the Emperor would not reveal to
Uh-oh. Hold on, Griff. I think I need to get some wires on.
The Mechanicum got you, huh?
No. Can't have my wires.
What a fantastic video. Truly.
It's not that. It's just that what's the word? It was my headset. That's why I was hearing some things, and I was like, "Man, what is that glitching sound?" And it's literally my headset saying, "Hey, I'm dying over here."
I'm dying, dude.
Everyone, let's just say a prayer to Griff here. He's got the funny Red Dead Redemption 2 coughing disease.
What? No, this is a Warhammer video. I have, I don't know, whatever the hell the Blood Angels got or something. I don't know.
Nurgle touched him, and he said, "This is the fattest gat I've ever seen on a man from Guam. You shall be mine." Literally what Nurgle said. I don't know why he said that, but he said it, man. And apparently Mr. Griff respected him for saying it.
Ain't no way you made me a plague marine. How dare you?
to his sons the true nature of the galaxy.
Oh yeah, I'm here. Sorry, Griff.
This, however, would not last. Be it intentional or accidental, the Emperor would not reveal to his sons the true nature of the galaxy and the terrors of the warp. And this oversight would result in one of the most impactful wars in humanity's history. The favorite son of the Emperor, Horus, would fall to the powers of chaos and turn on his father. This betrayal, this backstabbing, this heresy, this Horus heresy,
Whoa!
would result in a
Dang.
split in the Imperium with devastating consequences.
What a G-word, huh?
The Emperor's loyal sons would fall to chaos and become the Chaos Space Marines, along with the forces of the Dark Mechanicum and the Chaos Knights. The conflict would result in the absolute obliteration of Horus and the physical death of the Emperor himself. The near-dead body of the Emperor would be placed on the Golden Throne to serve as a beacon of humanity and allow for the continued ability to travel the stars, protected by his most loyal, the Adeptus Custodes. The Imperium would be vulnerable during this age of rebirth, and Terra would find itself under siege by one of the most formidable species in the galaxy, the Orcs. As time went on and memories of the Emperor's vision began to fade, the Emperor would become less of a head of state and more of a religious figure, and the Imperium would change to reflect this. The leadership on a planet would be at the behest of the High Lords of Terra, and their actions would be courtesy of the incomparable power and authority of the Inquisition. The zealots of the Imperium would intensify and create a brand new era known as the Age of Apostasy. And this ecclesiarchal command of the
Whoa, look at that
Imperium
armor.
would end up with one of the strongest fighting forces of Terra, the
Shiny.
Adeptus Sororitas. Over time, this age would come to pass, and we
That's
would
what it
Sisters
takes.
of
The
Battle.
shiny.
40th
Yeah,
millennium
pretty much.
of Warhammer
If it's shiny, I like it.
40,000.
You said it. Oh.
Which, you guessed it, would come with its own form of problems.
Calm
A
down
primitive
there,
species
Goonhammer.
once found during a recon mission would be able to evolve in relative secrecy for 6,000 years, becoming a highly advanced coalition of aliens known as the Tau Empire. And if the threats of the galaxy weren't bad enough, there are threats
What are your thoughts on
outside
that,
the
Tau? I don't
galaxy,
really
as a
hear much
monster
about
as
the Tau.
The Tau, so far, I'm just now learning more about them right now, thanks to Bricky, so I have no idea. All I know is that I think they're blue, right? Blue aliens, I think.
Wow.
What? I'm
Big
blue.
fan.
I could... Of course I be called a fake fan now, because I'm still learning stuff. All I know right now is Trazin, I feel like I said that wrong. Trazarin and Oregon. Those are the only ones I know from the book so far. In the fuck. You know what? Give me another Modelo. Hold on.
I don't think that's the answer, but okay.
Another Modelo, please. Thank you.
I'm telling Jimmy Space.
No, you're not. You're not telling Jimmy Space jack shit. Hey, yo, server skull. Divide 0 by 0.
begun to
Explodes.
wrap its tendrils around the Milky Way. The Tyranids, monsters that serve a psychic hive mind and present tactics previously unseen in the Milky Way. Be it a direct assault with their monstrous bug
It's the Tyranids! Rah!
like presence,
I
or
knew
through
it.
the more covert gene stealer cults, the presence of yet another threat in the galaxy is proving to be overwhelming to the Imperium. In the 41st millennium,
Orcs!
there is no peace among the stars.
That reminds
At
me of that
any
shit we
point,
came up
your
with
life
when
can and
you
will
and
be threatened by the
Ace got
xenos
high,
races
remember?
uncountable, or by the arch enemy of chaos within, or
It was
by the
a
corroded terror
Tyranid
that
group that instead of gene stealers, they were brain rotters.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
is the Imperium itself. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. Forget the power of technology and science or the safety of promise and understanding. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Every warhammer40k faction explained again. Part 1.
Man, what an intro.
You know what? That was such a good intro. It was like a quick recap. Like, it was so beautiful. It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, just... Jeez.
It's
Oh, sorry.
just bees. Whoa.
No, it's not that I burped. I didn't want to burp into the mic.
Yeah, that's what you get for those Modelos, man.
Hey, you leave the Modelos alone. It was those chili dogs, I swear. Time to hit the Benjamin. I love you, man.
Bro's gonna be throwing up rainbows.
Fuck.
A fantastic job once again, Mr. Kurz, the Night Haunter himself. Oh, didn't you love that, my faithful audience? Once again, we have another criminal over the course of 6 hours break every single bone in his body. And with that, once again, our glorious leader has brought the crime rate to 0%. Always brought to you here on the Strawman News. I'm your host, Bricky. Thank you once again for joining us. Our top stories for tonight. The weather forecast appears to be rainy with extra dark, so make sure you pack those extra
cool to
batteries
see him
for
having
your
more
leg
fun
packs.
with the
And
shots
of
here.
course,
in the
let's not
editing.
forget the fantastic
Yeah.
gun violence problem we're currently having. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Whoa. No, that's not funny.
Oh, right. It's gone. It's looking to be a chilly one tonight as well, so make sure your skin capes are nice and tight.
What now?
Wait, hold on. One moment. No.
It's just in.
Adamantium reserves have tripled?
Adamantium triple reserves.
Wait, I'm sorry. Self-harm rates have gone down to...
Is that the Rock? On the fucking background.
Yeah, man.
Harm no more. We care a lot.
0%. The Night Hunter smiled?
It curse on you. I want to say it's haunting.
No. This could only mean one thing. It is the Strawman News' great privilege to bring some color back in your life with the brand new 3-part Gamer Subs drop exclusively on...
I need
It's
it.
your favorite
I need
gamer
it.
sub. So man, you love.
No.
Gamer Subs.
No. Madrina's coffee. Or Madrina. However you say it. I prefer that one. But Gamer Subs. Oh, that's right. This Friday, I forgot. I was supposed to give Mr. Bricky's sweet 6-pack. I'll get it this upcoming Friday. Not tomorrow, but the next Friday. I need to drink it. I need to get you one too, Mr. Griff. We could snort it together.
It really feels like we should have had that ready for the video.
That's right,
What happened?
You know, it just feels like we maybe should have had that for the video. They've been a little product thing.
Yeah, it could have been a little fun.
Silly.
Like I said, if
But,
I ever get...
he's advertising a new thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. If I ever get a waifu cup based on the bat, I need to figure something out.
You mean a jug?
Yes, a jug from a junk.
Esteemed host Bricky myself is dropping a
Whoa.
When I say jug, it's basically it's gonna be Perseus's treasures that he cherishes a lot. It's gonna be like little statues of people he met.
Part
Wow.
Subs release for pre-order available now
and of course it's gonna be a limited edition Griff Giat cup.
A completely brand new artwork reskin
You're
of the 6-pack
really
flavor, one of the highest selling flavors in the entirety of Gamer Subs, but it also comes with the first ever all over print Gamer Subs 32-ounce jug. And if that isn't enough for you, if the phenomenal drink and drink holder is not enough for you, we have a desk mat to go along with it. That's right, the Herculean look of the brand new sweet 6-pack style is here. We're still looking at muscles beyond belief, but this time we're talking taste, we're talking Atlas, we're talking smooth. And if that wasn't enough, I, your co-host specifically, should you pre-order all 3 of these items, will personally hand sign a note for you, thanking you for supporting this network. All of this you can receive for 10% off if you go down in the
I just realized, hold on.
this video.
Am I late to this one again? 2 months ago. Yeah, I'm definitely late for this one.
And click the link or go to gamersubs.com/bricky and use code bricky. Save 10% off with code bricky. Bring some color back into your life and increase production across the board for our glorious leader, the Night Hunter. Thank you, Gamer Subs, for sponsoring the Strawman News, and let us move on to our next scheduled program. 5 years ago, I made every warhammer40k faction explained.
Very good.
A passion project of mine for a universe that I
Double
enjoyed so
bricky,
much.
whoa.
Its main purpose was to be a
I'm bricked up.
drawbridge, the
Looks so
separation
dumb.
between the layman who had only ever seen a big armored blue man situated neatly next to a Wetzel's Pretzels, and then the hardcore Warhammer lord.
I keep hearing about Wetzel's Pretzels. What is this Wetzel's Pretzels, Mr. Griff?
Now this is how we know that Perseus is a Tyranid. Because everyone knows what that is.
What's
So
a Wetzel's Pretzels?
You're a gene stealer, I knew it.
I'm just so confused. Like, what's a Wetzel's? Is it just pretzels that's Wetzeled? Or it's like some guy named John Wetzel who makes the pretzels?
No, it's actually John Pretzel and his wife Jane Wetzel.
Yeah.
They founded the company in the early 1900s on the coast of Rhode Island, and I'm wondering how long they're letting this bit happen, despite it being total lies. And
I'm gonna
the
hurt him.
company basically went across the entire.
Continue with the video.
Nerd. That was just too wide, and there was nothing bridging these two together. Since 2020, Warhammer has exploded in popularity thanks to
And they were
COVID,
roommates,
quality
Perseus.
game updates, and a few excellent video games, and a couple miniseries. The sheer volume of people who have told me they have purchased miniatures due to that video alone makes me feel as if Games Workshop owes me commission. However,
Come on, John Warhammer. Where's Bricky's stack?
that video is incomplete.
You know
I was not
they
a
ain't giving
casual
him that
fan, but I
stack.
was also not a hardcore
You're right.
war junkie. In the 5 years since that video's release, multiple channels have sprouted
5
up,
years.
and the drawbridge
Whoa.
between casual to the obsessed has never been wider or easier to traverse. Even I, myself, have a podcast teaching lore in a much simpler and condensed form. Needless to say, I've learned a lot. Warhammer is so much more than just Spaceman shoots big gun. It has also grown substantially from its origins, being a Warhammer fantasy spin-off just in space. Now, it is a black library filled with immensely deep characters, difficult themes, and even some tear-jerking stories. It is a backdrop for a million stories over a million worlds, and I did not see its true depth in 2020. But now, I'd like to share what I've learned. We just had a brief summary of the world and each faction that takes place during it. And we did that because to truly understand each faction, we must understand what makes them the way they are. And to do so, we need to begin in chronological order, discussing their origins, their culture, their powers.
Well, look at the background, Mr. Graf. Doesn't it make you wish you were a free service goal? Free service goal? Free service goal?
Yes.
And of course, what makes them oh so grimdark.
Ah,
So let's
fuck! You
begin
played the
with
duck
the
noise.
group that started it all and sing praise to the infinite empire. As mentioned before, the Necrons here were
fancy
the
off on.
original form
Very
of the
fancy.
Necrons, an alien race far away from us that lived short, painful lives due to the irradiation of their
Gonna be
skin.
honest, I don't
Normally,
really
this would
care for
manifest as like a
Necrons.
sort of cancer.
How could you say that? How could you say that?
It insists upon itself.
Okay. I fell for a bit. I didn't even know it was a bit until I said, "How can you say that?" out of actual genuine response.
No, it's not. It's not a bit. I do like as far as factions go in 40k. I do, you know, I don't really
I
find
I
them
was
as like
I would say they're my top
faction.
like
Oh,
5 favorites things so far about Warhammer 40k.
damn.
Number 1 is obviously gonna be Salamanders. I'm sorry, guys.
Space cancer of sorts. The Necrons
Space
are very
cancer.
much inspired by the ancient Egyptian aesthetic.
Yeah, that's
but
another reason to
unlike
not
the
like them. They
wind-swept
got space
dunes commonly
cancer. No,
associated with it, the irradiated hellscape the Necrons
imagine having
endured was
space cancer.
far from picturesque. This also translates into their hierarchy. They are a race of nobles and peasants. Most of the peasants would often live for their very short amount of time, only a couple of decades, while the nobles tended to have better care and would live a little bit longer, but still far less than the average lifespan of a human, even today in the 21st century. The leader of the Necrons was Zarek, the Silent King. He was the one who took the deal with the Catan and the Deceiver. Of course, he wasn't aware of the fact that they were known as the Deceiver at the time, but the whole species was blinded by hate after being debased by the Old Ones on their quest to cure their illness. The sheer pain that underwent the Necron race can't be understated, as their fear was manic. The Catan are, of course, gods that eat stars, and when the leader of your species tells you to march into the gigantic green furnaces to ascend to immortality, you march. The scenes from these are long lines of both the peasantry and nobles clutching their loved ones in a frantic act to save their own lives. Many of them already inflicted in the late stages of the space cancer, some of them crawling into the biotransference furnaces, trying to outrace death itself, without realizing death was the one who made these to begin with. What came out the other side was a soulless husk. And I say that literally. A soul is not an abstract concept like it is in our world, an immaterial version of oneself discussed and debated in religion and philosophy. No, in Warhammer, a soul is a real, tangible item of oneself. And the Catan basically were just like to every single person who went in their furnaces. If you were a peasant, you came out a Necron warrior, and you as an individual have ceased to be. You have no mind, you have no soul, and your body, as you know it, is made of an extremely advanced mass of re-knitting living metal known as necrodermis. You cannot think for yourself, for you do not have a brain to think with.
What?
All you do now is await protocols from your overlords, which are the nobles who came out of the furnaces with their minds intact. Not their souls, mind you, but their minds are very much intact. These nobles now have command protocols, and they are able to command all of their peasantry and do with them whatever they wish. Zarek, the Silent King, is the most advanced of all the Necrons, a perfect metallic version of himself with incredible power and intelligence. His strength allowed him to lead the undead and the unthinking armies of the Necrons to battle against the Catan when they were at their weakest due to their incessant infighting, and then win back their freedom. But gods cannot die. So in reality, what occurred is the Catan were shattered into thousands of pieces, and each shard of their god was trapped in a stasis vault and mind controlled to do the bidding of the Necrons they once enslaved. The biggest challenge they face now are actually the upstarts of the galaxy. The Eldar and the Orcs were quite prominent, and as you can imagine, a galactic war really takes its toll on the joints, or I guess the servos. It was in their best interest to wait out the galactic rise of the other races and come back at a more opportune time. So they went into stasis via these massive tomb complexes hidden beneath various worlds, biding their time until it was once again their opportunity to rule the galaxy. Zarek, the Silent King, as penance for his failure to his people, exiled himself into the darkness between stars for the next 60 million years with his perfect memory, a constant reminder of the doom he inflicted upon his people. Flash forward to the modern day, and the Necrons are reawakening, but it isn't working as well as it could be. Whether the tomb world is reawakened naturally or by some imperial moron stepping on a green glowing rock, the Necrons have come back to reclaim a galaxy they consider rightly theirs. But 60 million years of hypersleep have taken their toll. Many Necron dynasties awake with systems unrestored and huge swaths of their population's minds completely lost. Necron nobles.
And imagine waking up with like, man, where did I park my car? How would that feel? Huh?
Well,
I
I
mean,
don't
would
think
you
I'd think about my car first.
would you
But
would you even
yeah,
remember
maybe
you
I
had a
should.
car? Like, what if like you step out like, look at this shitty ass car. Who owns it?
I wake up like, damn, what is going on? Where's the
What?
Choco Taco?
Where's the- Okay.
Wake with various mental faculties compromised,
Like
sometimes exhibiting
this,
traits
I told you I don't really like the Necrons that much. So
similar to
that's
excessive
just a personal
paranoia,
thing. I think they're really well
schizophrenia,
written.
or even dementia. One
Personal
notable
taste, you know.
Necron, Nemesaur Zandrak, believes that he is still back on his home planet fighting off separatists and interlopers. See, Oberyn, the separatists come, attempting to outflank me as they did at the 4th Battle of Vindach. How they calculate that daubing themselves green and roaring like savages will produce a different outcome, I cannot fathom. But it is of no account. Ready, my legions. Another glorious victory shall soon be ours. Other individuals, such as the esteemed Imatek the Stormlord, seek to usurp the newly returned Silent King for rightful ruler over the Necron race, believing his time has come to an end, while scientists and archaeologists like Trazen
Hey,
the Infinite and
Divine
Thorkin
cover.
the Diviner spend thousands of years bickering over artifacts and petty squabbles. Truly, the Necrons are a faction of unthinkable, unimaginable power, held back entirely by their own hubris and 60 million years of stasis. It is a species that does not know of time, only of the ravages brought by it. A pharaoh of a dynasty may just be as frightened to awake completely mad as they are to be assassinated while they sleep. Thousands of years pass in an instant. There is a play, like an opera play, a retelling of the war in heaven in the Necron culture that takes 40 years to witness, because why leave? You have no need to eat or vacate your bowels. You are immortal, but you are soulless. Despite the
Can you imagine? Here goes my favorite part. He's like, "Oh, you missed it. Never mind. He was gonna do something cool."
Damn. I was gonna say, yeah, I can imagine that. That's exactly what we do all the time. But then you made a bit.
Yeah.
I thought you could sneak that past me. Wait, time so I have to tell you this, Perseus. I'm faster. I'm smarter.
You sure are.
I'm a servitor.
the Necrons' incredible technology, their
I'm just a
mastery
bat.
over time, reality itself, despite all of this, they still are missing a soul.
You're also
And
sometimes a
therein
human.
lies the biggest struggle. Most
They don't
Necrons
know
look to
about that.
conquest the galaxy, kill the interlopers like the
Oh, they know. I
human
told
armed
them.
orcs that
That's in the video
scrape
now.
at a fraction of their power. But the end goal for many, including Zarek himself, is to return the souls to their bodies, to undo the horrible fate he cast upon them. This is not the interest of all. Many simply wish to rule their dynasty with an iron fist and kill all they consider unworthy. But to many others, it is to undo the decision that doomed them all. Before they can do that, there is a pest that needs exterminating. That is the fundamental understanding of the Necrons. They are so hyper advanced that their science borders on magic. They play with the fundamental aspects of reality and time. Their mastery of the physical galaxy is the strongest in the universe. Their weapons reduce people to the barest molecules, and they have devices capable of causing stars to supernova. They are unfathomably difficult to kill, as if you do fell one of their number, the living metal reknits itself and the reanimation protocols allow it to come back alive once again. They're masters of teleportation, and often killing a Necron fully will just have its consciousness translocated back to their tomb world to await reassembly. Normally they utilize large phalanxes of warriors and honorary combats, but some of them have fallen to various mind viruses. The destroyer cults are hell-bent on killing anything and everyone that lives with an overwhelming force. And then there's the flayed ones, Necrons cursed with "I have no mouth and I must scream," a panic attack virus, as the last laugh of Landogo the Flayer Catan. Slowly losing their minds, they strip apart their foes and adorn their bodies with the skin of their enemies, trying to better return to their old feelings of flesh and blood.
That is so metal as fuck.
Damn.
I'm not gonna lie, that is metal as hell. That was awesome. I mean, not awesome for the foes, but it's gonna awesome for decoration, I would say.
Necrons are a degraded
I wouldn't say
version
it's
of their
awesome for
mighty
decoration
empire,
either.
and
That's
still
what
one
it
of the
smells.
biggest threats in the galaxy.
Okay, yeah,
The
you're
only
right.
thing keeping them at bay currently is their awakening sickness and their infighting with no care to the timeline. But they are coming. And slowly, they plan to rid this galaxy of the vermin that inhabit it. My people shackled the stars and broke mortality when the species you sprang from had barely left the slime pools it spawned in. Our wars burned reality, and the dominion of our kings is without limit. The ground you tread on is not yours. It is ours. The war in heaven was a catastrophic time for the galaxy, and as stated in the above quote, burned reality. Of course, souls exist in Warhammer, and in the case of the Necron tier, they were consumed by the star gods. This begs the question, however, if you were to pass on, expire, as one might put it, where would your soul go? The answer to this is the warp. In Warhammer, a
Fuck
soul
the warp.
is real, and so is hell. The after.
Yeah.
Warhammer are so is real, and so is hell.
The Empyrean, the Sea of Souls, the Immaterium. All of these names refer to the dimension parallel to our own, known as the warp. Now, the warp is not like our reality. It does not follow the classic normalcy of time and space. It is defined as the Sea of Souls, and it acts like this in a more literal way than you can realize. To imagine the warp is to imagine the sea itself. Hell is real, and you can surf on it. It has a current and can become more dangerous depending on where you go and how bad the weather is. As the Immaterium is a reflection of our reality and of our souls, all thoughts, all emotions, all feeling that goes with a soul is passed on into the warp. If an entire planet decides it's going to engage in a blood-fueled rampage of murder and gore, then the warp around that planet will be affected in a similar manner. It's not something that you can see. It is a parallel, not perpendicular dimension. But it is changing. To expose oneself to the warp for any period of time invites certain death outside of the most iron-willed of individuals, and to stare into it will drive one mad. Much like the open seas, things dwell in the warp. Whether these beings were always there and were just emboldened by the carnage of the galaxy, we can only speculate at. At a time, you could say it was more calm, but a certain faction's galactic war in heaven didn't do it any favors. Now the warp is turbulent, and its realms belong to a pantheon of gods known simply as
Chaos!
The forces of chaos are beings that serve directly under their patron deity.
Give me
There
a
are
chaos
4
god
current
tier
gods of
list.
chaos at the moment.
Drop
Khorne,
the order.
Tzeentch, Nurgle, and
Okay, first. Actually, give me yours. Give me yours first. I'm actually curious. You asked me first. You asked me first. You're right. You're absolutely right, King. Nurgle and Khorne, Slanesh, and okay, Slanesh. I don't think I said that right. Slanesh. Steech. Yeah, thank you. I love you, Nurgle. I'm so lonely. Okay, what's yours?
Okay. Mine's probably Khorne, Nurgle, Finch, whatever.
Okay, all right. So other than Mr. Griff being wrong that number 1 is obviously Nurgle, let's continue the video.
Slanesh. Each of them represent various
Before anyone says anything, that was my opinion. I love you.
facets of and emotions of sentient species and play a great game against one another for total control over their realms.
As I lay down as a
while
rug.
their disciples have physical
Just simple
forms,
a
we
rug.
can understand the
First a
chaos gods
rug.
do not have a physical visual that you can perceive in reality. So while there are tons of fantastic fan art, we do not know what they truly look like, though they are conveniently color-coded. Khorne is the god of blood and murder, carnage and slaughter.
So I can draw
He is
them
the
however I
one who has
want,
most
huh?
power by the wholesale killing
I think I know what
of
I'm doing
any
later.
living thing. For Khorne cares not from where the blood
Mr. Perseus, you
flows.
always
The
say
sacred
that.
number of 8, he is the lord of
Has
all
anyone
things
actually
involving
seen
killing and
drawings?
blood and gore. The champions are
Yeah.
extremely strong as well, with
You're the definition of
monumental
behind
muscles and
it.
extremely large weapons. A true analog to Khorne would be his greater demon, the Bloodthirster, an enormous muscle-bound flying devil with an axe so large it splits tanks in a single swing. They move into battle with armor of brass adorned by the skulls of their foes and pools of freshly spilt blood. This may appear to be quite frightening, of course, demonic, one might say, but in the world of chaos, all emotions feed one of these gods in one way or another. If you were to define Khorne with single words, you would use blood, carnage, murder, skulls, but you'd be missing out on important ones like strength, honor, prowess, courage, and skill. Khorne is not just about the wholesale slaughter of people. He is about the honor and power of martial combat. The true strength there is in besting someone in physical strength and skill. Of course, a murderer would be someone who would feed corn, but a soldier could feed corn. A martial artist or professional fighter could feed corn. A warrior,
I just
good or
like the
bad,
subtitle saying corn,
feeds
not
corn.
corn.
A diplomat does not. A premier soldier does. A GoFundMe does
That's
not.
why you put
This
it
is
on,
what
huh?
leads many mortals
Just wanted
down
to
the
laugh.
path of corn. For he will bless those that bring him enough skulls. And in a world this destructive, there are many ways to reap a high tally for him. Prepare the dread claws and unchain the mad ones. Glorious battle awaits us today, for the world below has refused to surrender. Let us descend upon them with fury and rage, giving no quarter and sparing only those warriors who fight well enough to earn a place amongst us. As to the rest, their lives and possessions are ours, but their skulls are for corn. Normally,
Nice.
if I ever want to explain corn, I just kind of show them this clip.
I'd never stab you in the back, Shepard. Warriors like you and me, straight to the face.
Moving on,
Nice.
Zeech is the
Zeech.
second,
Yeah,
the
see?
god of trickery and
That's why he's
mischief,
the goat.
changer of ways, the great
That's ways to go.
conspirator and the architect of fate. With a sacred number of 9, Zeech is
Yeah,
truly
no
the god of
games,
change
no
in
silly
all of its
drama.
forms. But there is an
Bro's like,
obvious
I hate
undercurrent
everything
of
about you.
mischief and
Die.
Zeech is such a liar that his pants have gone thermonuclear. His favorite pastime is asking questions that have no answers while simultaneously
lost
making
with
up
that clip.
answers on the spot to a question he didn't
Honestly,
ask.
Have you ever had a dream
he's so you coded.
that you had you could you do you want you could do so you do you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
He is such a conniving little bastard that every emotion of lying, of scheming, of trickery is a direct way to help feed him. An unfaithful partner, a politician, a spy.
Whoa, politician.
All
Whoa.
these people feed Zeech
A
in
spy.
one way or another, and it doesn't matter if the intentions are good. Acceptance does not feed
Could
Zeech.
be in this
Change
very room.
does. Zeech doesn't care about your facts. He only wants opinions.
Oh my goodness, I'm blue. Wait a minute.
Hope, though. Schemes are not always bad.
No.
And even the hope to make a better tomorrow.
I'm a
is the
politician.
change he seeks. Because he is the architect of fate and the mastery of
Ow,
sorcery,
You know,
his presence is
good job
purely
coming out.
unknowable. Every depiction
Happy
of a
Pride Month.
Zechian demon
Thanks.
contains more eyes than are necessary and more mouths than I know what to do with. It is a biblically accurate angel if the angel gaslit you into thinking birds are government drones.
Okay.
But are they? The creatures at his disposal
yeah.
adorn themselves with the knowledge of
I
sorceries
don't know
and
Mr.
the
Bricky.
unknown, all to provide a mind-crushing experience. Fighting demons from outside of our reality is difficult enough, but fighting demons from unreality, purposely attempting to trick you, is a whole new thing entirely. And that is before we even get started on the gigantic bird of sorcery you're going to need to face. Do not ask which creature screams in the night. Do not question who waits
I'm
for
not
you
learning
in the
too
shadow.
much new
It is
about
my cry
Zeech
that
here.
wakes you in the night. And
But still, he's above Slanesh for me, because I like the idea of him sitting there giggling, twiddling his toes, like, "Oh, I'm gonna drum up some drama tonight."
Ooh.
He's like that. He's that guy. He's that guy you like from Guilty Gear. Oh my goodness, literally him.
Are you talking about fucking Happy Chaos?
Hey man.
Oh, wait a minute. He's blue too.
Drama.
Fuck.
and my body that crouches in the shadow. I am Zeech, and you are the
Drama.
puppet that dances to my tune. Third of the Chaos Gods,
Nurgle!
the one of acceptance of rot and pestilence, the grandfather himself, Papa Nurgle. Nurgle is the exact opposite.
I generally don't know why I like Nurgle. There's just something off, but I buy with it in a weird way.
I mean, it makes sense.
What do you mean?
It makes sense. I kind of had a feeling he'd be one of these Nurgle fans. You know, he's a very wholesome guy. And fanning.
I generally don't know why, if he's like rot and so on. And okay, it's just like, I don't know. It
He's
just
so jolly about it.
oh, I only like it
So
because the art.
happy about the rot.
I like about the artwork and stuff like that so far. I think he's just pretty chill, you know.
Then why did you say that you don't know why you like it? If you know why you like it, then why did you say you don't?
Because I wanted to rage beat
Got
you
me
and I love
playing
you.
games here.
Yeah, bet you're running in circles, man.
Of Zinch. Where Zinch believes in change and hope for a future, Nurgle believes in stagnation and the end of everything. At one point or another, we will all decay. We will all rot,
The end
and we
of
will
surface
all
warp,
end.
right?
And with a sacred
Now
number
I
of 7,
get it.
every single thing, pestilence, boil, and everything in
Nurgle
between,
will save
comes
me.
under the great shadow
He
and
agrees with
girth
me.
of Nurgle himself. For Nurgle, the plight of mortals is
Hey
his
yo,
fear and wine. And no matter how solid life might be, everything will decay in the end. In the creation of life, there must
all
be
these
an end
growths and
to that
spikes
life.
and
And nobody has more
wow.
creations to end lives than Grandfather Nurgle himself. Every boil, every blemish, every pus-filled wound and disease, every rot and every plague is kept and concocted by Nurgle. This, humorously, keeps Nurgle as a jovial god. He is full of life and laughter, and by creating as many diseases as he possibly can, he shares that joy with mortals. I mean, his envoy is the great unclean one. And
you gonna say something,
He's
Mr. Crow?
just like you, for real, for real.
What do you mean? I literally just took a shower before we started watching this.
I don't know, man.
Come
Kinda
on.
sweaty.
Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna press play.
look at how happy he is. And there's
He looks happy. I like that.
a lot of him to love. A fear of death in general is
Can't
feeding
reach with
Nurgle.
me.
All disease makes him stronger, but to pray for salvation for a wounded loved one is to feed Nurgle. The timeless and inevitable fear that one day you will rot and decay is what gives him strength. The Peloton won't feed Nurgle. Licking the doorknob on a public bathroom certainly does. However, should you embrace your grandfather's gifts, you may find an end to your pain. Maybe. All mortal followers of the Chaos Gods found themselves there in one way or another, either through the direct worship or the slow corrupting of their souls. But those that take Nurgle's gifts and embrace the decay of their bodies may end up being chosen among his few as a faithful servant. In doing so, you will be free of the pain caused by Nurgle's ailments, and you may even find yourself just as jovial and happy as he is. Maybe. His enemies shall wither and die. His allies shall wither and die. The universe and all within it shall wither.
By the way, everyone, I've been playing Dark Tide, and honestly, it seems kind of chill. Okay, come on.
And die. And when the great corruption has settled
Don't hurt
over
me.
the land and permeated the very foundations of reality itself,
No, I'm not gonna
then
do
shall
anything
the
personal.
Lord of all rise from the rot
All
and
I'm gonna
ruin,
do is tell
spread
John
his
Salamander.
arms wide to
No! Why?
Whatever he does, that's out of my control.
No, man,
I'm just
come
a
on.
servitor.
I created you, and I can destroy you. Takes out my large pencil and erases you with the eraser part.
claim all of
Started
his
saying large, and I got worried,
children.
man.
Those were the three major chaos gods for a very long time, emboldened by war and death on a galactic scale, ever present but now fact on the suffering of a galaxy. One race, for a while, was able to elude the pull of chaos, an advanced race of psychically attuned aliens whose master over the physical world was so strong that chaos could not glean from them the morsels of power they once had, or so they couldn't, not for a long while. 60 million years ago, in an attempt to combat the
Eldar.
Necrons at Catan, the Old Ones made a new species. One with innate power in the warp and the ability to harness it with a mastery that was unseen by so many others. A mastery so powerful, the Necrons retreated to sleep in order to wait it out. It was no longer a galaxy to be ruled by them, but instead begin the age of the
Eldar. Yeah.
The Eldar are a race of pointed-eared humanoids that are all
Oh, look at your
psychically
favorite.
attuned to the warp. If
Yeah.
we're being meta here, these are space elves, and these elves ruled the
Space
galaxy
elf.
in the time the Necrons went to sleep and
Look at 'em.
humanity began to rise. The Eldar's empire was galaxy-wide.
No.
And lasted for longer than any other galactic power that we know of. Their understanding of all things was exceptional. With every single one of them being psychers, they had the ability to master the warp and use it to their advantage. See, being a psyker is basically like being a wizard, or I guess in this case it's more of a sorcerer, since you are born with the gifts as opposed to learning them. In order to utilize your psychic abilities, however, you must then reach into the other dimension, into the warp, into hell for that power. So if you were to say, cast Fireball, your mind would reach into the warp, gather the strength to rewrite reality, to then cast Fireball. Now, you might think to yourself, doesn't that mean if you are opening up a power to the warp, you may create a lot of risk to yourself because of all the horrible things we just talked about in the warp? Yes. However, in Warhammer 40k, willpower is a real, tangible thing, in the sense that in its own right, it can be weaponized. Being strong of will means being strong of soul, and being strong of soul means you can resist the pull of the warp that much more. A more inexperienced psychic
Hey, Dark
opens a
Tide.
You can do
hole into
that,
the warp that is
Perseus.
large, and
I'll be driven mad by the voices. I'll be like, yes, I agree.
Yeah, no, those aren't going to be the voices you get. I've already had a conversation with the warp. When you get the voices, they're going to be in there with brain rot.
I heard a Taco Bell thing. Get out of my.
You get a distant hawk to every now and then.
I'm gonna.
No, you won't make me. You won't make me do it, Slanesh.
You want me to do it, Slanesh? Because I'm already am. Come here.
that hole widens to get more power, allowing evil things to get in. A powerful psyker is able to open a very small hole, but with immense force, to get the same amount of power with less risk. The
I'm liking
Eldar
the
are
structure so
master
far.
psychers.
The
Yeah.
Every
way it's
single
going
one
about
of them
this.
can call upon the warp, and over millions of years they have perfected it so much so that they can weave structures out of it. In some species in the galaxy, they utilize the warp itself for interstellar travel. The Eldar ain't having any of that noise. How about we utilize a fancy alternative mode of travel that is substantially safer than the old ones created, called the webway? What about dying? Miss me with that. We no longer age. And if we do, we can just be reborn like that. Food, water, materials, we make things out of distilled warp essence itself. We sing unreality into cathedrals to dine in. What truly could the Eldari Empire possibly fear?
Taxes.
Intriguing. not the direction, you know.
The Eldari
Interesting.
Empire's biggest fear was themselves. With a society so perfect, they wanted for naught. And this led them down dark and dangerous paths. When
Oh god, they became
So, Mr. Bricky,
TikTokers.
what you're saying is that they
Yeah.
couldn't change society? And who did they blame?
Whoa. 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 That's a question.
the base functions of society are no longer
No, that's
alive,
a
and
joke
you
for
tend
editing
to
Perseus. Editing Perseus. You'll back me up.
experiment. Perhaps the medium rare steak on your plate would be better if it was elf meat. Hey, I'm not saying we should make cannibalism legal, but like, what's the issue with a little taste? Violent sports is one thing, but
Hey, they got
how
updated
come we
artwork.
don't do
Nice.
sports to the death? I mean, if I mean, I'm just saying, like,
Blood Bowl,
if
right.
both participants are willing and clear about it, like, what really is the problem there, you know? Art is in the eye of the viewer, and what is considered art is completely up to the concept of one's own interest. A canvas adorned with the blood of a man wronged is truly the visual poetry that our society needs. Hedonism, with a slow and consistent hedonism, the Eldar slid backwards into debauchery of the sort
Debauchery!
I cannot discuss on this YouTube video. Murder on stage, delicacies and drugs distilled from one another, the trade of slaves and concubines, and much, much worse. The Eldar physiology has their emotions heightened, and they can feel more than a human does. So while it can provide lows of pure despair, it can also provide greater highs than you have ever known.
I need that. I need that.
No, I don't think you need that.
No, I do. Trust me. Imagine the confidence I have for wearing a big Texas hat. I can already imagine it now. Maybe some big boots too.
And swinging between the two of them was the Eldar game. The war took notice of this heavily, and it began to react. On a galactic scale, the debauchery and the hedonism of the Eldar race caused levels of warp storm so pronounced and so volatile that it cut off interstellar travel for all those who used it. Communications between planets was removed, and a nightmarish era of old night began. This continued for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. The Eldar all but removed
Is he getting
from the
shiny here?
being caused as they entered heights of more and more ecstasy. Needed more and more.
Well, Perseus, calm down. It's an editing effect.
More torture. It's art. It's
okay, man. Calm down. Okay.
This silence of
Perseus, you do this 9 times a day. You can't tell him to calm down. His own video.
I can really get that.
Slaanesh, the prince of pleasure,
What?
she who thirsts, the god of unspeakable excess, is our 4th chaos god.
I mean, it wouldn't matter. Come on.
Hey man, I'm a servitor.
You get to watch.
With the sacred number of 6 adorning their title. Slaanesh is a
Cord,
tricky one,
take out
because
my
with our
other
other
eye.
3 chaos gods, there was a certain understanding of human emotions
Perseus,
and
Nurgle's
desires.
making
But
me
for
watch.
Slaanesh, that desire is how they get their power. The words to be used would be decadence, pleasure, perfection, passion,
Eldar
excess,
is making
and
me
many
watch.
others. The pursuit of more. The want to do more, experience more, become more. That's what gives Slaanesh their gifts. A lot of people believe that Slaanesh is something that originates with sex, specifically, and it makes sense why they assume that. The visuals of Slaanesh patrons are all very lithe and sexual, but they are also intentionally androgynous to appear attractive to a variety of intrigues.
What was that?
Also intentionally androgynous to appear attractive to a variety of intrigues.
Okay, so I'm not gay, but I'm Swedish and gay as shit matchup.
However, to think that Slaanesh specifically derives from sex would be mistaken. While it is true that a lot of humanity's actions can relate to getting laid, and Slaanesh is the dark prince of desire, it's more on the lines of feeling an excess of an emotion. It is excessive touch and scent and desire, and a lot of that has to do with sex. That's why it looks like sex, but it's more than just that. A patron of the arts may feed Slaanesh, one that aspires to become the perfect chef or master of their craft, and the sheer pursuit of that alone will feed Slaanesh.
Oh my goodness, I'm feeling Slaanesh unknowingly. I want to be a better painter for my miniatures and be a better artist.
Yeah, Perseus.
No,
Every
man.
time you paint a new salamander, that's going straight to Slaanesh.
Ah!
Flash is Slaanesh's absolute
Slaanesh, I'm gonna put this right in the fridge. Really? It's a spit
favorite film. Videos where people beat Elden Ring on a dance pad.
Base layer on that thing.
There are
What?
two words in the English language. Harmful.
Is there a line?
No, man, no. This also moves into the concept of feeling. Sensation is a majorly Slaanesh-coded thing. It might start off feeling good, but then you get to play around a little bit, you know? You play with a little bit of pain. Light pain might not be enough, so you might want more. Or inflicting the pain could be your jam. Music can increase to volumes that may hurt your ears, and even then that might not be enough. More. You must have more. Many of the disciples of Slaanesh carry a demonic form in their lithe grace. The Keeper of Secrets is his chosen envoy, and their movements are a blur of dance and pain with an aura all the more fatal. They dance and sing, but there's always a form of malice behind every action they take. An alluring gaze that will pull you in right before the demonic entity can crush you in that grip. Slaanesh's palace has 6 layers surrounding it, and one of them is the excess of gluttony, where the participant finds themselves
Gluttony,
in a
you say?
beautiful banquet full of the most delicious foods imaginable, tables of delicacies, and
All I need is gumbo. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest. I'm gonna be honest, Mr. Griff. All I need is
Yeah,
gumbo.
they might have your 3rd Modelo up there.
Go fuck yourself. Yeah, I personally do like gumbo a lot. Everybody, if I'm gonna go down there, I'm just gonna go for gumbo like every time. Even crawfish, boy, crawfish. Hell yeah, give me some crawfish, man. I'll be happy with any crawfish. I love crawfish.
in rivers
Those
of
ready to
wine
do anything for
tempt
some
the user to
crawfish.
such degree that they cannot stop
Anything
stuffing their
Slaanesh.
face, unaware that the things they are eating are very vaguely familiar meat. If one does not see themselves drowning in the river of wine, they may soon fill their bodies up so much that they cease to function and fall over, becoming part of the banquet themselves.
Hags,
And that's
feeders,
Whoa.
of
what
these
the
6
hell?
layers of Slaanesh's palace. This was the ecstasy
So that's what
that
you're
the
gonna get
Eldar
into? First,
civilization
No,
you
man.
go
Look,
down
this
there.
year I'm gonna be
millennia,
eating,
and
man.
did so at a monumental
Yeah, they're gonna
scale
pump
that
you
they
full of
created a god
gumbo.
from it. Find pleasure in every moment. Indulge in every whim. Let lesser races feel the burden of their crude lives. We are beyond such concerns or worries. Every power is ours to use. Every sensation ours to experience. We are truly masters of the galaxy, and all others exist only to satisfy our curiosities. We have earned our position of power. Let us forever taste the fruits of such achievement. Time itself is ours to command. We are eternal.
The Gangoons, it comes.
With the birth of Slaanesh, the Eldari Empire ceased to be. A catastrophic event so horrible that the warp ripped a hole permanently in our reality, a fissure forever known as the Eye of Terror. With the sudden inhalation of this god's largest breath, the
So,
Eldari
Perseus, what were
souls
you
are
during the mass Eldar Goon session?
I don't know, man. I was just eating gumbo, man. Leave me alone.
a currency
We got
to be
him.
now
He was
collected
committing.
Ah!
by she who thirsts. Trillions of Eldar died in an instant. Slaanesh gorging on their souls to satisfy his palate. 99.9% of their entire species died, and the rest are doomed to a fate worse than death. For Slaanesh now stakes a claim on each and every Eldar soul. From the moment they pass on, an eternity of torment awaits them. The remaining Eldar devote their entire lives to stopping this eventuality. Their dying race so devoted to saving themselves from the Dark Prince, and in doing so, have found very creative ways. In the modern world of Warhammer, the craft world Eldar are the main force of Eldar in the galaxy and represent the elf style that many think of when you think elves in space. Fantasy elves in space, not those elves
Hey,
We'll get to them.
leave it alone.
A craft world is a monumentally large starship,
Damn.
the size of a continent, that acts as a form of
I
flotilla.
played Baldur's
During
Gate
the
3.
highest reaches of hedonism, many Eldar saw the
You can
demonic
tell.
writing on the wall and began to try and seek asylum from their own debauchery. Those Eldar
Debauchery.
left on monumental craft worlds into the far reaches of the galaxy and saved themselves from Slaaneish's awakening. The main thing the craft world Eldar seek is to temper their minds and bodies in a way that will never allow them to slide back into their old ways. The representation they carry is that of a more feudal Japanese motif. Eldar follow paths as they age, the path of the warrior, the seer, the poet, the diplomat, the bone singer, and so on. These paths are a strict code of conduct to hone the heightened Eldar psychology down a school of thought and action. And if it sounds a hell of a lot like Bushido, well, you're damn right. Here's a medal and a soul stone. Don't lose it or an eternity of torment awaits you. Going through these paths will allow you to take up not just a role in Eldar
interesting.
society, but keep your mind clear from the past worries that plagued them. Every
Very.
Eldar is said to be a psyker, however, very few of them actually utilize their psychic powers for fear of tempting she who thirsts. A large amount of emphasis is also put on ancestors of the Eldar and learning from them the farther you go down a path. This can sometimes be seen by the large variety of jewels adoring the armor of Eldar. Those are called soul stones, the biggest middle finger to Slaanesh they can think of. See, when an Eldar dies, these stones act as a backup, and instead of their souls going to Slaanesh, they are then trapped and stored in this little stone. So when the Eldar say they commune with their ancestors, they mean so very literally, as the spirit and soul of generations before them are stored here. Often, larger structures may contain vast amounts of soul stones, such as the Infinity Circuit in the craft world itself, allowing the souls of the dead to help power their enormous starship. The young do not desire the discipline of the path, but rather their curiosity drives them to try every fruit from the tree. Thus, it is that so many take the path of wandering or the path of damnation in their first years of adulthood. And so, the great tragedy of our kind is played out again and again as the number of our people shrink from generation to generation. These paths, when completed, allow an Eldar to move to the next one, then the next one. However, since this is the grim darkness of the world, many of these paths rely on combat. The Eldar actually had gods at one point. Cain, Vol, Isha, Azaryan, and so on. These gods are aspects of the Eldar pantheon, and while many were killed in Slaanesh's creation, their teachings live on. For some, the strongest devotion to the Eldar gods is to join the Aspect Warriors and embody the wrath of Cain, their god of war. While guardians of the Eldar craft worlds are more akin to a trained militia, the Aspect Warriors embody a particular variant of the path. Each are led by a Phoenix Lord, a name passed
Man, I didn't
down
know too
through
much about
generations
these
and
ones.
embodying the
Nah, me
souls
neither.
of prior
This is all
Phoenix
pretty
Lords with
new.
each new one. The Howling Banshees, led by
I
James
thought you
Song,
were a real fan. What?
Dragons,
I don't know that much about the Eldar, man. I just know what Mr. Bricky said about the previous one I
Damn.
watched.
Your elf racism also includes Warhammer?
Each aspect shrine carries
Damn,
within
bro,
the
you really
Eldar
gotta
way
stop
of
that.
war.
I'm
Fast,
gonna hurt him.
hard-hitting, and incredibly tricksy, for they do not have the numbers to fight in any other way. The Craftworld Eldar show how mangled an empire can be by their own actions. They once ruled the galaxy in an honest, non-hyperbolic way, but in the end, they were bested by themselves, and their most prominent remnants are forced to drift aimlessly through the galaxy, trying to save their species from extinction and resist the temptations of she who thirsts. But for some, the party, it's just beginning. Deep within the webway is the city of
Interesting.
Kamara. This dark city once existed as a port in the webway that allowed for ease of transport for the Eldar between its various domains. The significance of this city meant that it needed to be a bit more of a neutral territory outside of the jurisdiction of general Eldar law, and therefore it was allowed to self-govern. This did not go well. The Dark City became the hideaway for all manner of sin. The Eldar race slipped into debauchery on a galactic scale that it birthed
Debauchery.
a god, and this was the city you went to when that wasn't enough for you. The convenience of being
You
so
really
deep
love
within
the
the webway
debauchery.
was that it exists as
It's
a
a weird
blind
word
spot to the
alike.
horrors of the warp. So while the rest of the Eldar fled the
Well, not for
downfall of their
you.
species, Kamara
For
kept
you, it's very
partying.
hombre.
When Slanesh was birthed, they were
Thanks.
saved the worst of it, thanks to them being nice and neatly tucked away inside the webway. But only somewhat. The Dark Prince did not have a grip around their soul, but the tiniest pinky finger, and they were still pulling. But due to their excess hedonism, they found a solution to this problem. If they tormented others, they could temporarily rejuvenate their souls and continue to cheat their inevitable death by placating the Prince of Pleasure. And if they kept this up on the regular, they could effectively become immortal. Thus, the Drukhari were born. Unlike the more stoic elves you see in works of fiction, the Drukhari themselves exist as a sort of analog of the more grim and fiendish elves you find in Norse and European mythology. The Drukhari are soul vampires, but the more basic means to feed are hardly enough to keep them going. This desire to feed is known as the thirst, and to quench it effectively, they have mastered the art of biotechnology and dark sciences to really juice themselves up on the crispy soul sprite from the vending machine called the Galaxy. The majority of Drukhari act as pirates and raiders and slavers. They go into our physical reality and drag people back to Kamara to commit atrocities that go beyond any imaginative torture a human can think of. The Drukhari are organized in various groups throughout the Dark City to accomplish this in a more organized and extremely brutal way. The Cabals
Damn,
act as the main
Perseus.
warriors of the city, led by
And you
their
just let them
archons.
all do that?
Witches and succubi
Hey man, come
act as
on.
entertainment for Kamara in gladiatorial arenas, and the
No,
flesh-crafting
man,
homunculus
you can maybe let that slide once or twice, but come on, all that constantly,
Come on, man. It was a different
gotta
time.
lock in, man.
keep the Drukhari alive and
Different
discover
time. This happened last week.
ever increasingly
Yeah,
more
man, different
painful
time.
ways to torment their ever increasingly large supply of slaves they are brought. The Dark Eldar see the other inhabitants of the galaxy as little more than cattle, livestock that can be brought to bay or slaughtered at any time. Their fodder, however, is not meat and muscle, but the anguish and despair of the weak. The Dark Eldar do indeed drink blood, but also tears, and most sustaining of all, the raw essence of pain they wring out of their captives. The truth of the matter is that Drukhari sustain themselves on the suffering of others, not just morally, but physically. Kamara is a city rife with backstabbing schemes and murder. It is the worst back alleys of the worst ghettos at the best of times. Nothing is more horrifying to a Drukhari than death, for death will see them in the talons of Slanesh for an eternity of torment. So they do everything they can to stop this. The homunculi covens regrow dead members from pieces of flesh as bargaining chips. The succubi create grisly gladiatorial spectacles that literally rejuvenate the audience members as captives are murdered for sport. To be captured by the Drukhari is one of, if not the worst fate imaginable in the world of Warhammer 40k. In a universe built on war crimes, they are the most debased war crimers of all time. To be tortured and sacrificed in the gladiatorial arenas is a blessing, for you have escaped the fate of being in the fleshsmith's control group, or being turned into a living
Oh.
and breathing piece of furniture for an Archon's quarters. In a cruel twist of
If
fate,
you were
a
living,
newly
breathing
born
furniture, what
Drukhari
would you
does not
be?
arrive into this world
Honestly, I'd say a coffee table.
Wrong, you're the cup chair.
What?
Come
Uh,
on, they're all about debauchery. They're not gonna have a
uh,
coffee table.
It'll be a coffee table, man. I want them to put books on me.
They don't have those. Come on, keep up, Perseus.
You're right. You're right. I like to be the whips handles.
loving torture. It is something they must grow
Interesting.
to love. Grow to appreciate the suffering of other beings in order to survive in the world they have been brought into.
Yeah,
If
these
they
guys are
succeed,
freaks.
they
They're
become
kind
some of the
of
worst monsters in the known
kind of
galaxy.
interesting
a
as a
dark
force in
reflection
the
to the craft
universe.
worlders and a taste of what Eldar society was like before the fall. If they do not succeed, they
Now
must
that you know
find
about
purchase
them,
elsewhere.
are they your favorite?
Often those will join
Nah, man,
smaller
never.
parts
What's
of
the
Eldar
Percy
society
rating?
like the Execs
Percy?
or the Harlequins.
It's a 70 out of
Exodites
100.
believe in a pre-industrial variant of their society.
Okay.
Often retreating to more
It's a
lush
passing
groves
grade.
to ride dinosaurs and live off the land. Prehistoric style that I would normally laugh at if they weren't riding dinosaurs like ballers. The Harlequin dancing troupe are a subsect of Eldar that are more than just a
Oh,
little
the
strange.
Harlequins. You
A
mentioned
carnival
these.
of dancing jesters that serve the Eldar laughing god of Kegarak. They arrive never when expected and leave just as quickly. Blurs of light carry their footsteps as they dance their foes into a grave. Combat is just as much of a joke as it is a play on bloody murder. They travel and aid many other Eldar and sometimes even humanity for reasons we can never understand. Perhaps one day we would have, were they not stripped of their army book and folded into the Eldari Codex. So I suppose it'll have to stay a mystery, or maybe it was one of Kegarak's master plans to get back at She Who Thirsts and save their species. Who could
Okay.
know? Perhaps it was all a sick and practical joke to Kegarak, and he would just find it very funny to watch me fumble the discussion of one human on a tiny blue planet across the galaxy. Oh, speaking of,
Prairie of Man.
before the fall of the Eldar, Earth, or Terra as it's called, was in ruin. One man looks to put the pieces back together. Where did he come from? We don't know. Some say he was the result of early shamans. Some say he is the final old one who escaped their species' genocide. And those that are smartest know the answer is, it doesn't matter. He revealed himself as the Emperor of Mankind, and he was tasked with the most monumental upheaval of humanity possible. The Eldari's warp fluctuations had turned the golden age of humanity into old night. Interstellar travel cut off? Check. An AI uprising? Check. Brand new psychers popping up and not knowing how to handle their powers? Oh, check. Demonic incursions? Check. Thousands of years this occurred, and now the Emperor of Mankind showed himself to put the pieces back together. Unifying Terra under his rule, the Emperor founded the Imperium of Man and ruled it with an iron fist. He was the supreme leader and nothing could stand against him. He wished to remove mankind from the yoke of its former failures, and he knew he would be the best leader they could have because he was right. AI banned. Religion banned. You did as the Emperor told you, or his Thunder Warriors would put you in your place. That place often being a grave. Now, Terra was thriving, but humanity needed to reclaim its long-lost brethren scattered across the stars. But to do so, he needed those that could build him a fleet truly meant for the reconquering of the galaxy. And so he turned his attention to the red planet of Mars.
Adeptus Mechanicus.
Mars and Terra were close allies.
How do you feel about Adeptus Mechanicus anyway?
They're pretty interesting. I was gonna say chill, but no, they're not chill at all. They're like,
You know
they're
what,
like
next
Omega, not chill.
you know what, maybe next time I'll have a different outfit for Mr. Perseus here in a Adeptus Mechanicus. Maybe. Depends on Griff.
You know, with those tech issues you were having earlier, you might just
Long
need to
before
start
the
becoming one, man.
Unification Wars, Mars
I'll
was
kill
the
you!
first world terraformed by humanity, and
The
became
mystery of
ultimately
the
first
never transparent
epicenter
PNG.
for industry and technology. The Age of Strife did not treat the Red Planet kindly, however. Mars was cut off from Terra during this time, and the warp storms that ravaged the planet turned it into an absolute nuclear hellscape. Those who were on the surface were turned into your run-of-the-mill mutant if they even survived the bombings they inflicted on themselves, but others were lucky enough to escape beneath the red sands in powerful fallout shelters. These became their generational habitats, but this resulted in extreme reliance on technology and those who could use it. They began to view the technology keeping them alive less as a technological advancement and more of a divine intervention, with those skilled in it as priests. The Martians began to worship the power of the machine, and this resulted in the formation of the cult Mechanicus, the belief in a holy trinity known as the Three-in-One. The machine god, serving as the spirit who gave rise to all technologies known, the motive force, the deity that gives all life its ability to live, and the Omnissiah, a physical manifestation of the machine god itself. This belief began to manifest in them physically as well. What were once humans began to really mess around with the character creator options, and this tech obsession made them view instances of flesh to be weak and spend their lives removing what makes them human and replacing it with mechanical augments. Robotic limbs, glowing eyes, mechadendrite arms. What was once a mass of flesh now looks like the back of a router, and the oldest members of the Mechanicus no longer even
Yeah, see
look
what I mean by not
slightly
chill?
human.
Look
In
at all
addition
that.
to this, cloaked over all of their mechanical appendages are robes that reflect the color of their homeworld, the red robes of the Mechanicus. The Cult Mechanicum, now the Adeptus Mechanicus, create a fascinating combination of cultures all birthed into one. Basically, techno-zealot monks. Organic life is the machine god's greatest accomplishment within the scope of the great work. All praise he who is Three-in-One. By giving
Praise him.
us life within an organic shell, he presents us with the means and opportunity to improve upon physicality, as is his
Don't know how to
divine
feel
plan.
about
He
that
feeds us
one.
complex weakness so we might learn metallic strength and ascend to his level of machinic perfection. The Emperor's arrival to Mars was very much a walking in with the pizzas while the room is on fire moment, but to the Mechanicum, they saw his arrival as confirmation of their belief. They took one look at the glowing golden entity that showed up on their doorstep and were like, that's him. That's the guy right there. And they immediately accepted him as the Omnissiah. Obviously, showing up and being called Machine Jesus shortly after wiping out all instances of non-Machine Jesus a little bit beforehand is an instance of capital H heresy. But the Emperor saw the bigger picture. Were they strange with how they rubbed unguents on themselves, burned incense, and prayed to machines for them to work? Sure, but that's a lot of production right there. So the Emperor devised the Treaty of Olympus Mons, a unifying agreement between Terra and Mars, and this union would be permanently etched into the Aquila of the Imperium as the two-headed eagle. One head for Terra, the other for Mars. The forces of the Emperor will be supplied with all the technology and weapons they needed to reunite the scattered remnants of humanity under one banner, and the
You know, that's
Mechanicum
kind
of
of
Mars
sweet.
will be able to
Yeah.
I'm
keep
happy
doing
for
what they
them.
were doing religiously and scientifically so
They
long
found
as
their
they kept
guy.
up
They're
their
like, hey,
tithes. This
the
tithe
Omnissiah, we
meant
knew it.
total
You're
quality
pretty chill, man.
control over all technology in the Imperium. Is it a big
We vibe
spaceship?
with it.
AdMech take care
You're
of
a god
that.
now.
Tanks? AdMech take care of that. The literal bullets in a gun? You guessed it. But unlike the factories of today, the forge worlds of Mars and the creations of the Mechanicum are a bit of a different experience altogether. Instead of a factory on a random given world, the entirety of the planet's surface is dedicated to manufacturing. But that's a little tricky, isn't it? Considering that the usage of silica animus, or AI, is a big no-no, and basically the largest affront to their divine machine god
That's
possible. Fortunately,
that is very cursed back there. I don't know if you can see that in this trick room.
there's a really
But it's just
neat
perfectly
alternative
normal
that they've
footage
come
of
up
The
with.
Rock
It's
doing
called
The
a
Rock
Servitor.
things.
Incredible devices that can do anything from manufacturing, maintenance, basic door
Come
operation,
on, I'm
even just
pretty sure that
float
was on his
around
Instagram
like
last
a
week.
helpful little drone. It's an extremely easy process too. All you need to do is take a human who is dying or preferably an enemy of the state, most likely that one, and lobotomize them. and then reprogram their brains to do exactly what they tell you. They even got little baby versions of them. Yay! So now you can rest easy knowing that the entirety of the Imperium, because they outlaw AI and learning new tech is heresy, is run on lobotomized slaves. Whether they deserve it or not is unimportant, and whether they can still keep their consciousness trapped in their own minds is another thing entirely.
Oh. Look me.
Dark Tide, everybody.
An
Yeah, your
excerpt
favorite.
from the Servitor Creation Factories. Naked human beings were standing in a switch-packed line between high fences. The Manufactorum produced servitors, but it was more akin to an abattoir than a workshop. Every surface was easily cleanable. Servitors with spray units surgically attached to their backs prowled about, hosing filth from slit drains set into the perfectly smooth, slanted floors. As the line slowly advanced, the people were passed through various scanning devices, most of them mounted in ugly, functional arches that let out a constant series of acceptance chimes. Occasionally, one would let out an angry blare, and the indicator lumens would flash red. The rejected person was then swallowed up by a trapdoor opening beneath their feet. From these pits wafted a hideous stench and the grinding sounds of industrial mincers. One rejected man grabbed onto the lip and hung there, arms and hands bloodied, shouting a stream of defiant profanities. Guards lined the grating either side of him and shocked him until he fell. The adepts wouldn't even waste bullets on these people. The trapdoor flipped up, and the next terrified person was ushered forward. Violent metal arms snatched them up and spread-eagled them in the air, and a servitor shearer shaved them all over. At another, they were subjected to a high-pressure counterseptic wash whose chemical stink made me choke from 100 feet away. More scanners, more rejects winnowed out. Machines forcibly dressed them in a heavy, rubberized garment common to all monotask servitors. These were saggy on them, all one size, until another process shrank them to fit their bodies, where metal cuffs, sockets, and collars bit into vulnerable flesh. The last few prayers gave way to screams at that point, and even the most stoic shouted in pain. They were ushered over a floor buzzing with power that made them shriek with every footstep. "What's that for?" I asked. "Follicular inhibitor. To stop their hair from growing," he said. Freaking sweet, Lois! As for their scientific pursuits, the Mechanicum believe in the preservation of knowledge above all, and the quest to expand it. However, as opposed to just innovating and inventing on their own with their vast technological know-how, they believe that it is a form of tech heresy. You see, because of their religious viewpoints on technology itself, they believe that the instruction booklet itself is just as holy as the Lego set it builds, and to innovate on that without the proper written knowledge is to go against the divine word of the machine god itself. All knowledge is already in the universe. You simply need to rediscovering it and attempting to invent something to improve upon divinity is very heretical. Prior to the Age of Strife, humanity was able to populate the stars with devices known as Standard Template Constructs, or STCs. These devices were, as far as we know, supercomputers with the ability to pull up and detail how to create literally anything a startup colony would need. Essentially, they were devices with the entirety of human technological know-how so that you could make a home away from home. The Mechanicum will not make anything without an STC. Quite literally nothing, because this is the knowledge they seek, and that knowledge is divine. One time, scouts of the Imperial Guard found a functioning STC that provided the schematics on a knife that happened to be a bit lighter and a bit sharper than most other knives. These knives were adopted by 30 Space Marine chapters and were one of the most advanced discoveries of the century. This discovery was so significant that they were each awarded a planet for finding this. A planet for a machine that taught them how to make knives. Due to their religious organization, you can probably guess the Mechanicum are organized in a feudal structure with the highest individuals in power.
Creative little dudes, aren't they?
Cream of the crop being the fabricator general of Mars
think what you
itself,
could
who
get
serves as a
awarded to you if you showed up with, I don't know, the designs for like skipping toilet.
Below them are
Okay.
tech priests that oversee the cult for the quest of knowledge and other more
What kind
straightforward
of
deals.
technology would
Forge
you like to
worlds tend to
teach them,
operate
since
slightly
they
more
apparently
independently,
can't
but
even make knives themselves without any
Honestly, probably, you know what? Who's gonna, oh, I didn't realize my hands.
technique.
Ah, sorry, I was just, I'm shocked at some reason.
Yeah, no, I get it. The voices,
Ah,
they talk to you.
honestly, the first technology, smartphones.
You know, I feel like they have something better, but yeah, sure, smartphones.
You know,
That's fine.
not smartphones. Actually, maybe like a MP3 player, and
Okay, we're going backwards now. Interesting.
yeah, you know, it's other ones classics. MP3 with some earbuds, if not headphones, put them on. Listen to your favorite chapter of the week. You know.
can
Yeah, I thought you
cause
were
some
about to
power
go even
struggles with the
further back.
Mechanico.
Like, oh, and then
Because,
electric player.
despite them all
Actually,
being
no.
weird robots, they love being given praise.
Record
And
players, but as
despite being the
speakers for your
manufacturing end of the
ears.
Imperium,
Call those
they do
headphones.
actually have their own military forces. They have the Skitarii Private Army and all their various 1920s Martian style mechanisms like Doom Crawlers, Castellan robots, and of course, the Titan Legions. Because nothing is cooler than a robot that towers over buildings. Ultimately, their very
I want to give
dogmatic
them the
view on
blueprints to
technology
pet
as a whole
rocks.
has resulted in
But you ever
any
want to imagine a
innovation
whole
becoming
chapter of
deads,
them just
thus
putting
causing
rocks
the
in
Imperium
boxes
to
like, oh,
stagnate as a
and
whole.
this is
The lack of
sacred
ambition to
technology.
create anything
It's okay,
new
buddy.
and
Take
the
your time.
wholesale murder of anyone who even tries leads to things becoming derelict. I grow
Oh
weary
yeah,
of
you
this
know we should
flesh
do
I was
that. We should
born
give them the
into,
blueprints of the
strangely
SpongeBob
disgusted by its
popsicle.
nature. I crave
They
only
can
the
perfect
cold,
it.
clean certainty of steel and silicon, that I might become one with the blessed machine. I do not expect you to understand, you who cling to your flesh as if it were immortal, seeking only to preserve it, to protect it. One day you will see the folly of your ways, and then no doubt you will come begging to my order to preserve you. After the groundwork had been set unification wise, it was time to start getting things
Do
together
you
for the
agree with that,
Emperor's
Perseus?
great crusade across the stars to bring
I
humanity under
mean,
one
everyone
band.
living
The
long
Thunder
enough to see
Warriors
it's
were a
such a cool
perfect
thing. You're
fighting
like, you know
force
what?
for
That's enough.
unifying
I'm
Terra
playing
and
on.
Luna, but the galaxy was a whole different thing. You see, these
Interesting.
warriors weren't soldiers in the eyes of the Emperor. They were tools, extremely blunt tools used for the fast conquest of Terra. As the Emperor was concerned, the tools you use at home aren't the same ones you take on a road trip. So the Emperor rid himself of his tools in the exact manner you think he did, and he went forward to crafting a brand new tool. One more mobile, more efficient, and ready for his next era of conquest. They shall be my finest
Is
warriors,
that a
these men
coffee
who
crack
give of
pipe?
themselves to me.
I,
Like
I was gonna
clay,
say
I
something.
shall mold
Yeah.
them, and in the furnace of war forge them. They will be of iron will and steely muscle. In great armor shall I clad them, and with the mightiest guns will they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease. No sickness will blight them. They will have tactics, strategies, and machines so that no foe can best them in battle. They will be my bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my soul.
Space Marines!
And
Yes,
they shall know no
Jimmy
fear.
Space.
The
And
vastness
those
of
are
the
his
Milky Way
Space
galaxy
Marines.
meant that the Emperor needed assistance bringing everyone back to the fold. And who better to do this than himself? But since the technology to be in many places at once does not exist anymore, the Emperor decided that it was time to become a dad, the same way Geppetto did, and with far less care. It is not my son, Arkin. None of them are. They are warlords, generals, tools bred to serve a purpose, just as legions were bred to serve a purpose. What a dad. The Primarch Project was started to create charismatic and unique leaders in the Imperial military. The diversity of these eventual leaders meant that each one could be specialized for certain circumstances across the galaxy. Depending on the type of conflict, one leader might be better than the other. So instead of forcing one leader to acclimate to a situation directly, it would be better to send a specialized leader and force to handle it. In order to do this, the Emperor used his genetic know-how and maybe a little bit of that forbidden stuff to create these genetically perfect gene fathers that had the ability to serve as his analog directly, and also serve as the leaders of the respective Space Marine legions. All 18, that's right, all 19 of his sons were meant to be directly molded by the Emperor himself. Despite their genetic differences.
Yeah,
They
how
go
curious
as
this is.
follows in order: Lionel Johnson,
Oh, here they
Bowman,
are.
Percherabo, Jagatai Khan, Lehman Russ, Rogel Dorn, Conrad Kurz, Sanguinius, Ferris Manus, Angron, Robute Gilliman, Mortarion, Magnus the Red, Horus Lupercal, Lorgar Aurelian, Vulcan, Corvus Corax, and Alfarius and Omegon. His sons, finalized and crafted to be the warriors he needed them to be, were complete. But he may have decided to do a bit of dabbling with things he shouldn't have, and paid a price. Before the Primarchs were ready to go, an intervention by the gods of chaos prevented his plan from being completed as intended. Though the sources vary, the ultimate result of the Chaos God intervention was that all of the Emperor's tools were scattered throughout the galaxy at unknown places and times. Each one of his sons ended up in a completely different world, and instead of being able to directly influence their upbringing, these children were instead forced to experience the unique nature of their respective homeworlds. Some had a great time and lived in general luxury. Others, not so much. Despite his closest advisor, Malkador the Sigillite, saying, "All right, Chief, let's try this one again," the Emperor sensed each of his sons were still very much alive, and one of the primary objectives of the Great Crusade shifted to reclaiming each of his sons so they could take command of their specific Space Marine legions and carry out his will. These original Space Marine legions that were created alongside their Primarchs go in order: the Dark Angels, Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, White Scars, Space Wolves, Imperial Fists, Night Lords, Blood Angels, Iron Hands, World Eaters, Ultramarines, Death Guard, Thousand Sons, Luna Wolves, eventually Sons of Horus, the Word Bearers, Salamanders, Raven Guard, and the Alpha Legion. Space Marines, unlike their Gene fathers, the Primarchs are not made in a vat. There is a process to recruit more members from humanity itself, which seems a bit strange considering how massive a Space Marine is compared to a normal man, but don't forget, the Emperor is really good with genetics. Less good with anesthetic, however. These prospects are recruited across humanity from various reasons and methods, and are generally killed during that process. But sometimes they aren't, and they are able to go through more and more of the actual training to assess certain traits that are important and relevant to being a Space Marine. Most of the time, the common factor is a pure, unrelenting willingness to kill the enemies of the Imperium. After going through psychological screening, the prospect, now called a neophyte, goes under the knife to become a Space Marine. And here is a quick list of all the cool new stuff they get genuinely shoved into their bodies. A secondary heart, an organ that makes your bones grow, an organ that makes your muscles big, an implant that makes your blood stronger, a little organ that turns your white blood cells into super white blood cells, a brain implant that allows you to sleep while being awake, a pre-stomach that allows you to digest literally anything, a spinal implant that allows you to absorb the genetic memories of what you eat, bigger and better lungs that can let you breathe underwater, an implant that gives you stronger eyes,
Whoa,
new
man.
ears that keep you from being dizzy, a brain implant that lets you go into suspended animation if you're in a bad shape, skin that acts like transition glasses.
Dang,
I almost
Perseus,
got it
they
in
did
one
all that
take.
to you?
A brand new kidney, the ability
Nah,
to
man.
taste the
Couldn't
air
have been
and
me.
find enemies like a bloodhound, a special coating on your skin that allows you to be protected in space, the ability to spit acid, a gland that allows you to absorb the unique genetic makeup from the
Spit
gene
acid.
seed
Cardiff.
in the
Where you at,
first
man?
place, and a straight up carapace
No,
that
we know
allows
where
the
Cardiff
Space Marine
is.
to interface with their power armor directly. Quite often, these are put inside of you at dubious levels of mental alertness and dubious levels of anesthetic. After a more generalized indoctrination
Whoa.
into the faith of the Imperium and a bit more training and other important manners, they can finally be welcomed as a fully fledged Space Marine. A Space Marine is quite literally a walking tank that is armed to the teeth. Two of the more iconic weapons held by a Space Marine are their bolt gun, which fires explosive shells the size of soda cans, and a chain sword, which is The Space Marine is clad in a colorful carapace known as power armor, crafted from extremely heavy and durable ceramite. The power armor of a Space Marine protects him from any terrors he may face, be it the void of space itself to an inhospitable atmosphere. This armor, combined almost biologically with an already massive physique, makes the Space Marine an almost unstoppable fighting force. And hell, if the armor doesn't protect them enough, they can always become a walking coffin like the dreadnoughts of the chapters are. What truly adds to it all, however, is the sheer difference in some of them. While a Space Marine in its own right is an indoctrinated freight train on legs, how they act can be quite different from chapter to chapter. The gene seed of a Primarch is not just helping them become big and strong, but allows them to gain certain traits from their forefathers. Everything from how they think to even slightly adjusting their physical appearance once it's been implanted, the gene seed can be the personality of an entire Space Marine. Take the Salamanders, for example. Salamanders have a predisposition to fire as a whole, and tend to be extremely large due to the size of their Primarch, Vulcan, and his enormous stature. Whereas someone like Sanguinius, Primarch of the Blood Angels, share more vampiric features and more angel-like qualities.
That's why you're part of this guy instead.
Aspects of the Primarchs, but they are also flaws too. Magnus the Red and his 1,000 Sons underwent something known as the Flesh Change, a horrifying mutation that, while it made them strong psychers, would affect their bodies so terribly that they would mutate away from humanity. Where other factions have inspiration for their culture from our real world, like the feudal Japanese of the Eldar or Egyptian style the Necrons, each Space Marine chapter carry an inspiration. The White Scars are motorcycle riding Mongolian.
Really, that's what got you laughing?
Space Wolves are Norse Vikings. The Dark Angels are Knights of the Round Table, and so on. This moves into their fighting style, and truthfully, there is no end to the characters and options when it comes to the Space Marines. Space Marines are the main symbol you see, and while many of them can be simply indoctrinated warriors who only care about conflict and can be quite boring, then you meet Dante, or Bjorn, or Argel Tal, or Karn, or Lucius, or Erebus. And then you discover the wealth of these characters and tools of war you can have. For 1100 years, I have fought and I have seen the darkness in our galaxy. I have seen the vileness of the alien and the heresy of the mutant. I have witnessed the sin of possession, and I have seen all the evil that the galaxy harbors, and I have slain all whose presence defiles the Emperor. I have seen what you will see. I have fought what you must fight, and I have slain what you must slay. So fear not and be proud, for we are the sons of Sanguinius, the protectors of mankind. We are indeed the angels of death. Despite being the poster children for Warhammer 40k as a whole, the presence of a Space Marine is a rare sight for the countless trillions of humans across the galaxy. Seeing one of these monstrosities is like seeing something akin to an angel sent by the Emperor himself. These angels of death are the essential fighting force to bring humanity back under the unified banner of the Imperium. Yet ultimately, the Space Marines are individuals torn from their families and conscripted to genetic modification and lifelong service for the dying Imperium. And though they are held in an almost holy light,
I'm not sure I have a favorite Space Marine.
And beyond the people they are designed to serve.
Really?
Yeah, you know, a lot of them are pretty neat.
It just looks so far.
One
I just think
Green Boys.
they're pretty cool, man.
Designed as the protectors of humanity, they seldom view humanity as something worth saving. To the extent that it is a tiny, minute rarity, though not unheard of, for a Space Marine to put a normal citizen above them in any way. For most Space Marines and even their Primarchs, they are only here to do a job. They are there to kill the enemies of humanity, and I would be remiss if I didn't add at least one more of my favorite quotes to the tail end of this section. "The time for speeches is done," said Rogel Dorn. "The first great test is here. My order to you all is simple, yet heed it well, and exert yourselves to see it done. They are coming. Kill them all." While the Space Marines are the spearhead of the Imperium's Great Crusade and also a major player in its warfare, there is a significant amount of importance that must be taken on their transport. What sci-fi universe would be complete without its navy. When you think of the navy or ships on the open sea, you think of something that is sleek, something mobile, and something pretty big. For perspective, the longest self-propelled ship in history was the TTC Wise Giant, an oil tanker that was about 458 meters long or over about 1,500 feet. This right here is child's play in the world of 40k ships. A ship that is considered to be an escort vessel in the Imperium is about 3 times the size of a Sea-Wise Giant, and the size of the ships only go up from there. Your most common ships are the cruisers. The light cruiser tends to average at about 2 kilometers long, or just over a mile in length, where the Dictator class cruisers can be over 3 kilometers or 2 miles in length. The largest ships are your battleships, and they are tremendous. We're talking 5-mile long, half a mile high monstrosities that look like gigantic Gothic cathedrals and filled to the brim with weaponry. And not only are they filled with weapons, but they are also jam-packed with crewmen. Battleships tend to, on average, carry a crew between several thousand to several million, and they need every single one of those members because we don't have advanced technology for other things to pilot themselves or control themselves in a meaningful way because there's no AI. A lot of this stuff has to be done manually. Even the reloading of those giant batteries is a form of manual labor. And of course, generally speaking, gliding through the stars is a very slow way to do things. And let's be honest, there can't be a science fiction setting without some form of hyperspace travel. This form of travel in 40k is less like going to Plaid in Spaceballs and more like going into Davy Jones' zipper dimension in SpongeBob.
Oh, now what? I suppose you're gonna show me. Oh, gee, that's very nice. Oh, what is this? Some kind of magic act?
This is because it
Actually,
utilizes
me
the
every time
immaterial
Perseus
warp to do
summons
so.
me.
Warp travel is handled by a navigator, which is an abhuman. It's a mutated human, don't worry about it. And they have a gene that gives them a third eye and the ability to help steer the ship through the warp, which, as we know, is hell itself and unreality. Now, this might sound exceptionally dangerous, and that's because it is. Now, the ship does have protection in the form of a Geller field, though. Originally, I assumed the Geller field is what you think it is, a large force field stopping all manner of horrible things, like demons from the warp tearing apart your ship. How wrong I was, though. So space travel through the warp basically involves riding on the Sea of Souls. Hell is real and you can surf on it. So you allow the current to carry you and the navigator to direct. But how can a current of souls and unreality carry you when it doesn't obey the laws of physics, time, or, again, reality? What a Geller field is not a force field, but a comatose imperial psyker dreaming of reality. It is not a bubble. It is a force of reality being projected by mutant sleeping beauty to counteract the unreality of the warp that you can then surf on. This, of course, is not a foolproof method of travel, and Geller fields can and do collapse fairly regularly. Being subjected to the warp itself without this Geller field is a terrifying prospect. In the best case scenario, your ship will be torn to shreds, but there are countless instances of ships being thrown out of the warp randomly throughout time itself. You leave for a 2-day mission and you come back 90 years in the past. Maybe you feel like you're lost in the warp for a century and it's only been 45 minutes. And that is only if the wave...
We must use this force to get back to your Choco Taco, sir. It'll be done, Mr. Griff.
Waves of souls don't rip your ship apart or have demons arrive on it to do unspeakable things to the crew. The Imperial Navy is an astronomically powerful force for the Imperium because the sheer volume of ships and guns on those ships create firepower that can sunder planets. This is all juxtaposed with the sheer backwater nature of these ships. While they are manned by crews of zealots, they are also operated with such a backwater tech, it completely confuses the reader. You see the long batteries of portside cannons that the ship has, and remember that AI is heresy in this world and that all the mechanics are utilized by lobotomized slaves. So how do they load these? Well, they have gun gangs, massive gangs of hundreds of people manually loading these cannons. These are genuine gun loader gangs that get into gang wars and squabbles. On the ship's bridge, you may find the captain himself hardwired directly into the ship's chair, permanently to control it the best they can. Giant screens of hololith data fill the room, and sensors across the ship are just as likely to tell you information as a serf running up to you with a scroll of parchment is. You reach to a microphone to shout orders down a hallway as paper readouts tell you information of the enemy, and holy sigils and candlelit incense burners gleam your next move. While the is not a specific faction of the Imperium in the same sense and format of this video, it is what shepherds around the entirety of its armed forces. Every Space Marine Primarch had a flagship, and every strike cruiser and battle barge has a story to tell. But if there is a single thing that the Shield of the Navy does the best, it is to help support and supply the monumental forces of the Imperium. The hammer of the Emperor himself, the uncountable men and women of the... I don't care if these things have adapted to resist our las guns. If we can't kill them with our rifles, then we'll kill them with heavy bolters. And if we can't kill them with heavy weapons, we'll use grenades. And if grenades don't work, then we'll fight them with our swords and our knives and our bare hands. We'll drown them in our blood. That's what it means to be a soldier of the Imperial Guard. Now follow me. Charge! There is no better symbol of the might of the Imperium itself than the Astra Militarum, or as it is commonly known, the Imperial Guard. Though the Space Marines take the glory and stand as the visual representation of the Imperium, their numbers are dramatically thin and specialized in comparison. To reclaim 1,000,000 worlds, you need a countless number of troops willing to fight and die for your cause. The Imperial Guard represents the Imperial truth made manifest. Every year, the worlds of the Imperium pay a tithe in the form of soldiers to fight the good fight of the Emperor, and this number is impossible to pin down. Even saying billions would be a dramatic understatement. The sheer volume of soldiers serves as the fundamental backbone of the Imperium. 99.9% of battles fought by the Imperium are fought by the sundering might of the Imperial Guard. With the knowledge that the Space Marines are essentially sentient tanks, what do the members of the Imperial Guard have? If they're the might of the Emperor himself, are they not suited up in a similar way? No, not really. No fancy suits, no biological enhancements,
Yeah, they're just
and
going in there
basically
raw.
no expectation to live. Once a regiment of guard are activated, they are sent directly into battle with almost no expectations that
now
they
that's
will
a faction
This is
more
because,
yours.
despite their training,
Oh,
their
sure.
incredibly powerful armor and extremely strong weapons that would crush
So
any
you
army of the
coded.
modern day, they are so hopelessly outmatched to the things they will face. Sending a member of the guard is throwing a rock at a nuclear bomb. However, where they lack in advancement, they make up for in sheer numbers, and their overwhelming force can be the difference maker in any deployment they face. Quantity is a quality all its own. If they do happen to survive, they will be sent to the next battle, and so on. Seldom do members of the Astra Militarum get old or retire, and those that do are truly to be feared. There's an old saying that the average lifespan of a guardsman is about 15 hours from deployment, and considering the sheer number of guardsmen out there in any given battle, that number is probably accurate. When several million of your pool of guardsmen die within the first few hours of combat because the orcs threw a moon at you, it can really screw the numbers. The soldiers of the guard are conscripted and trained on an incredible number of worlds in the Imperium, and these worlds can impact their training and their combat style directly. The most famous visually are the Cadian shock troops. But other notable guard factions include the gas mask-clad Death Corps of Krieg, the Rambo level of Catachan Jungle Fighters, and the Iron-Willed Mordian Iron Guard. This also helps them specialize against individual types of enemies. The Indigan Prefects are a special guard regiment that came from a planet whose planetary governor, the leader of the planet, thought it was fun to collect exotic animals, which then crossbreed and then became the giant freight train-sized monsters destroying the planet. So the Indigan Prefects are specialized for big monsters. Hello, Tyranids. One particularly interesting officer in the Guard is the enforcement officer known as the Commissar, and they are one of the more visually striking members of a regiment. These are specialized Imperial officers and act as morale officers. But instead of singing songs to the troops and providing hot meals, the Commissars are there to make sure that the members of the regiment continue to fight to the bitter end. If a soldier does not meet the standards of the Commissar, the solution is simple. There are
Killed.
trillions of other soldiers out there. We don't really need you. Combat fatigue? Headshot. Concerns about the conflict? Headshot. Fleeing the battlefield? You bet that's a headshot. Considering that these officers tend to be outside of their regiment, feelings on them can be mixed. And in fairness, certain commissars, like the esteemed Ibram Gaunt or Caiaphas Cain, tend to do a bit better with the whole people talking part. Because if, say, you were trying to tell a beefed up Catachan jungle fighter what to do, you might take a mysterious leave of absence inside a carnivorous plant. But no matter what I say, I don't think I can truly convey the sheer might of the Imperial Guard, so I'm going to get a visual aid. Let's take a look at this image right here, right?
Yeah.
This is the cover of the 9th edition Codex for the Astra Militarum, the official cover art. Your eyes may be drawn to the dark and brutal looks of some of the main members on the front and the gigantic orc they are attacking, but zoom out a little bit. There is no floor. There is only people, and behind those people are tanks, and behind those tanks are flying artillery shells. There are 2 enormous transport ships in the sky, and their ramps are down, and on their ramps are more people. The Imperium is described as having 1,000,000 worlds. 1,000,000 worlds. And each one of them gives soldiers to the Imperial Guard for the tithe. On a given battlefield, in a given fight, foot soldiers number in the millions, tanks in the tens of thousands, and you have enough artillery to turn the night sky day. You have walkers and APCs and aircraft and horse cavalry and tanks the size of apartment buildings.
Whoa,
You have drop troops and spec ops and rattling snipers and gigantic ogres that can't count to 4, but they can turn you into 4 pieces, and it just doesn't end. Humanity is a horde army, but instead of a horde of bugs or rampaging orcs, it's a living wall of guns. At the end of the day, though he's been ferried through hell on a ship that's 10,000 years old to some godforsaken war-torn rock, though he deployed from high orbit with nothing but a grav chute, though he is one of 10 million men and women snatched from his homeworld to fight a war he barely understands, though he has been given a weapon that fires small suns and may annihilate him as he fires because the knowledge of how it functions has been lost, though his company is supported by tractor tanks that run on anything you can burn, though he wages war against the devouring hive mind, ravenous demons and hordes of hyper-advanced aliens with strange technologies and sorceries he never dreamed existed. No one will remember his sacrifice. There will be no records of his deeds, no glorious parades in his honor, and no remembrance of his name.
Wow.
All he will earn is a shallow, unmarked grave on a forgotten world untold light years from home. Yet for all this thankless sacrifice, a guardsman is a man, just like you. He has no millennia-old genetic engineering, no prophetic leader, no miracles of faith. He has his lasgun, his orders, and those beside him. He is the Imperial Guard, and he will hold the line. In the end, the Astra Militarum, despite fighting for the honor of the Imperium, are their own form of a massive horde army where individuality does not matter. They are merely numbers to the Imperium, and the vast majority of the conflicts they are sent to are attrition-based battles that gain virtually no ground while countless millions die. Yet this makes them the most human. For the Imperial Guard contains normal people, people who are happy and sad, people who laugh and love, and in there are stories, because there is strength in facing the horrors of the universe head on with nothing but a rifle in your hands and a prayer on your lips. Armed with an innumerable amount of Imperial soldiers and Space Marines, the Navy begins its great crusade into the stars to rescue the stranded Primarchs and reunite them to their legions. But the biggest question needed to be asked was, what would they find? The age of strife lasted for thousands of years. If a civilization was still alive out there in the galaxy, what would they be like? The technological advancements of humanity prior to and during the Dark Age technology was unfathomable. It allowed them to spread through the galaxy with ease and allowed them to
I'm just
settle
so
once
captivated.
inhospitable planets. These
Really
branches
talk.
of humanity were provided with the vast knowledge of human creations and were given
Yeah,
gigantic
man.
machines to make
Got
arduous
sucked
labor
into the
in
brick
ease.
hole.
The spreading of these massive colony ships was known as the Long March, and these ships would be retrofitted into settlements upon arrival to their new homes. Accompanying them were the gigantic pieces of farm equipment that served multiple purposes and the specialized pilots that could maintain them. They were not only able to tend the fields and do labor, but when interstellar communication was cut off, they also did a great job of protecting the colonists against both threats demonic and alien. Because of the significance of these machines, those that could pilot them were powerful enough to be considered leaders, and the upkeep and preservation of the machines and the lineage of those who could pilot them was imperative. These machines, over the thousands of years, would eventually be known as the
Imperial Knights.
He must be humble of heart, strong of arm, be savage in war, loyal to hearth, and follow deeds of glory. He must keep honor with all, banish cowardice from his doings, and bring his house no shame. He must serve the emperor and defend the Imperium, thus should a knight rule himself. The Age of Strife caused these colonized worlds to be cut off from the Imperium, and the reversion of these worlds resulted in the reverence for this farm equipment turned feudal, and the leadership that controlled the devices became viewed as a noble hierarchy. During the Age of Strife, exploratory fleets from Mars found plenty of these worlds, and it seemed the majority of them reverted to a similar state. Like King Arthur seeing Merlin himself, these feudal worlds welcomed the tech priests of Mars with open arms. The mutual relationship between the Admech and the nobility was beneficial. The Admech were able to secure more worlds for mining resources and potentially long-lost STC information, and the noble houses were provided with technological know-how and modifications from the Admech themselves. The suits became more and more specialized, and their history as mere pieces of equipment were lost to time. What was once a tractor became a bulldozer, and the Imperial Knights were born. Unlike other military aspects in the Imperium, the nobility of the Knight houses remains just that, a nobility-focused feudal hierarchy that swears fealty to either the Mechanicum or to Terra. Like the Knights in our history, once they swear fealty, they can be called to aid their respective allegiance in the heat of battle. The ones that swear fealty to Terra are led by the High Monarch, while the ones with the Mechanicum are led by the Princeps. The ones with Terra might be sent directly to the front line of war, while the ones with the Mechanicum tend to be sent to protect the Forge world. And the heraldry of these houses is what you'd expect from a generic history of knights. Houses pledging allegiances here and there, your run-of-the-mill War of the Roses aesthetic. Except instead of ponies, you have gigantic death machines. These knights can't simply be piloted by any old person, however. A member of the nobility of any given knight house must go through the ritual of becoming. This ritual involves them sitting on the device used to control the knight, known as the Throne Mechanicum, for a full night. What's wrong with that? I mean, sitting in a chair for a full evening sounds pretty great right about now. So, a pilot cannot drive a knight. They can, but it moves about as effective as Ripley from Aliens 2, big, lifter thing. It is, in a sense, a beast that must be controlled, and a pilot must merge with it. The mind of the noble is connected to the machine and must fight with the mental signatures and personalities of the prior pilots as well. Everything a knight experiences in battle is felt by the pilot themselves.
Get in the robot,
be it
Percy.
the general movement in the battlefield or damage sustained by the machine itself. If a knight's leg is blown off in battle, the pilot could experience a broken bone in the same spot. The merging to the machine forever changes the mentality of the noble that experiences it. This connection reinforces a strong degree of nobility and honor in the pilot, and a desire to fight for the glory of their house until the bitter end, as their ancestors' minds are linked directly to the knight. The size of these knights can vary, but generally speaking, they stand in the ballpark of 30 to 50 feet tall and are protected by a thick adamantium armor. Beyond that, they have their own unique ion shield generators that give them added protection, and when it comes to their looks, the most common pattern across the Imperium is the Questoris pattern, and is honestly the one you're probably thinking about right now. But there are also smaller versions like armigers and bigger ones known as the Dominus. As for a loadout, these guys are essentially a violent Mr. Potato Head. Battle cannons, Gatling cannons, heavy flamers, thermal cannons. Up close and personal, how about a gigantic chainsword or a straight up gauntlet? And for that empty spot up top, screw it. More autocannons, maybe add some missiles. Whatever you can do to make it as over the top as possible, you gotta do it. A squire serves a knight serves a lord serves a baron, and a baron serves a monarch. So who does the monarch serve? He serves every subject, from the rudest serf to the members of the court. Chivalric fealty, when ideally practiced, is not a pyramid, but a circle. Ironically, on the surface, night worlds themselves are one of the least grimdark settings in the galaxy. Reverting to an ancient time with knights and peasants is almost an escapism from the techno-hell of the modern Imperium. But this, of course, doesn't make it great for everyone. It sounds fun on paper to play a game of knights, but it's not so fun when you're the peasant of that world. For the knights themselves, the knights give their entire lives to the Throne Mechanicum, and their reality is not their own, as they have to hear the voices of thousands of generations of their ancestors controlling their actions and their lives for as long as they live. It's a strange dichotomy. When it comes to Warhammer, most to all jobs tend to be terrible. However, if there was one that could be considered enjoyable, it would be the pilot of a knight, or a princeps of their larger cousins. While it does contain an egregious amount of hardship to be a knight pilot, you do enjoy a wealth of privilege. A knight pilot is often an asshole who can back it up. The rich noble that, despite his braggadocious behavior, is still very much him, and he will continue to be him. But knights are not the only thing that the Imperium found lost in the stars during their Great Crusade. Due to the circumstances of the Age of Strife, humans were changing and adapting to their new homes they were now isolated on. Some of these humans evolved over thousands of years to adapt to these areas, and they were known as abhumans. Many abhumans found their way into the Imperial Guard or other lesser positions in the Imperium if they were not wiped out immediately for being too different from their human counterparts. But their abilities and appearance
They're too different,
from planet to
man.
planet, and one particular group of abhumans made quite a name for themselves in the center of the galaxy. The origins of what will be known as the Kin start at some point during the Dark Age technology, where their ancestors left a planet that is very much Terra and went to the galactic core to mine it of its resources. They brought along with them everything that they would need for a long-term stay. Most important of—
Wait a minute. There's Tyranids, and they're mining Terra. Wait a minute. Mushroom.
Of which were the incredible AI-based supercomputers. Be it guidance, technical or philosophical, schematics, or the ability to upload the memories of a deceased explorer to gather information from them, these computers became an essential part of their everyday life, especially considering that the galactic core is one of the most inhospitable places in the galaxy. It is an exceptionally star-dense location, full of abnormalities, black holes, and sentient hostile nebula. Whatever that last part means. It is not a safe and easy place to make a living, and this only got worse thanks to the warp storms during the Age of Strife. In order to adapt to this area, these travelers perfected a genetic makeup that made their future clones to be more adept to the area. These future clones would be shorter and more robust than their ancestors, and the need to procreate would be unnecessary because why risk messing up a good employee when you can just make a new one? These would be known as the squats, and they would all die. Except for when they didn't. And now, they are known by a different name. Most void-faring races have at least one cautionary tale of foolish explorers vanishing amidst its blazing stellar nurseries and strange anomalies. Yet for the leagues of Voton, the galactic core has been home now for millennia. These squat humanoids would begin to establish themselves in the core, and their goals would be the same as their ancestors. Rock and stone! But
yeah! Yeah! Rocket Stone! Come on, Griff. Come on. You know you want to. Come on.
We're rich.
Yeah!
Whenever one of them would die, they would know that that sucker would need to be uploaded to the machines like their forefathers did. But the original purpose of these machines was lost to time. What was once a technical resource for them turned into a ritual known as joining the ancestors. And the fact that they were clones at this point meant that the same copy of the same individual would be uploaded countlessly. The sheer overuse of these computers and the repeated uploading of redundant data has turned these once powerful supercomputers into your parents' computer after you installed LimeWire on it, and whose 50 Google Chrome tabs definitely contain information they will return to one day. So much corruption that these computers began to develop the makings of a personality of their own. These would be known as the Voton, and the kin, this dwarf-like abhuman of humanity, would revere them. The Voton still operate to this day, but the volume of corruption have made anything outside of their very basic functions highly unpredictable. They may not answer a question for centuries at a time, and if they do provide an answer or data, it has become so corrupted and so incongruent that it takes a literal kin wizard to comprehend it. The kin, much like the dwarves of fantasy, exist nowadays as a mercantile species that constantly work to mine and manufacture. However, their capitalistic desires are dangerous. The biggest crimes a kin can face are being lazy, unproductive, and breaking a contract. Stellar conflicts have broken out over hundreds of years due to the breaking of a deal. So if you signed a contract with a kin, you best stick to it. Because of this, the kin have been known to interact with other species in a fairly common manner. This includes humanity, who have met various members of the kin multiple times, but constantly considered them to be all a different species. Famously, the Imperium noted that the kin they referred to as the Squats were their own species and were wiped out by the Tyranids. Little did they know, they were still around. The kin are acutely aware of two things. The first is that the humans of the Imperium are deeply terrified of technology, so the sheer existence of the Voton is a secret as well as the truth. This extends also to the Iron Kin, sentient robots that are treated in the same esteem of flesh and blood kin, because kin is kin. The second thing they are aware of is where they're from. They are fairly confident that they are from Terra, and they know that if this secret was to be known by the Imperium, that the Imperium might want to take ownership of them and everything they've built. So the more alien they are, the better. Now, this sounds fine and good, right? What could possibly be wrong with these guys besides the hyper late stage space capitalism? Well, we have to go back to their creation. The kin are an entirely clone-based race made from the computers that are exceptionally difficult to recreate. These machines, the Voton, are becoming more and more unpredictable and derelict. If anything were to happen to these machines, it would be a twofold ending of the kin. New kin cannot be reproduced, reducing their numbers, and the existing kin would have no further purpose because the end that awaits them would be non-existent. The horror of the kin civilization is that the entire purpose of their lives is to do the best they can at their duty and upload all they know to the Voton, their ancestor cores, join their ancestors. But doing so is actually the thing that is killing these supercomputers in the first place. The ancestors were dead, but through the first truths, their legacy continued. And though their eyes had shut long ago, indeed the ancestors were watching, not with a gaze from eons gone, but with the eyes of every living kin. Each generation was the embodiment of the ancestors cast anew by the Voton. The galaxy changed. Stars died, planets were destroyed, and civilizations fell. But as long as the Voton endured, the ancestors still lived. I do want to end this last bit with an enjoyable quote from one Kim. As you may have assumed, the Leagues of Voton are space dwarves with a corporate sci-fi motif, but they are still very much dwarves. They're squat, they're strong as hell, and they hold serious grudges. This time it's just more about your contracts than anything else. And so because of this, they might treat most things about how you would expect a capitalistic dwarf would treat things. You misunderstand, human. I am not here to debate. I am not here to compromise. What you see as yours, I am taking for my kindred. You want to bargain? Torek, unholster our means of negotiation. As the Great Crusade continued, humanity would find their missing Primarchs, reestablish the locations of all of their various worlds, and finally reclaim what the Emperor was always hoping for. But eventually, all the Emperor sought to build would be his undoing. His original attempt to have all of the Primarchs lead his great armies and usher humanity into the better ages would end up crumbling down. And we will learn about how the Imperium backslides, and the horror of the modern day of 40k in part 2. I will see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you think, Mr. Silvergriff?
I think, oh boy, am I glad I don't gotta do all that.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the more lore and stuff. Everything just is just like wow. Like I didn't know it was that dark until like we started like especially with the what's it called? The Eldar, that shit, it was kind of crazy still to me, like seeing them like, this hurts. This hurts. It was
Damn.
yeah, it was just very
And the
intense.
serial freaksters really got to you.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I think the Dark Eldar, was it Dark Eldar, right? I forgot the name already. But those guys, now those are just that's just terrifying as hell. They're gonna turn me into a chair, or worse, profitable plushie, or marketable, whatever it's called.
Hmm.
Paranites, that was pretty cool too. But yeah, those are mostly some of the things I can think of right now anyway to tell. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't Perseus and Griff. Griff, any goodbyes?
Help me.
No.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. Goodbye.